My brother Stephen Ross stand in Jerusalem. Blessing, the feast of dedication. Barak Hawa, Bahashim Hawashah, Ashura, Adalanawa, Yawu, Kanaka, Bashalawam, Wada, Haman. Blessed be Yahweh, the name of Yahweh Shah, gives us the feast of dedication and peace. Thank you, so be it. The Ha'ayim Asherai Akkad, Psalm 121. Anya Harayim, Mayayim, Oh, Harayim, Mayayim, Yabuah, Isaiah, Isaiah, Yabuah, Mayahawa, Shai Shemayim, Warafra, La'an, Nathan, Lamawat, Ragalia, Yalahaya, Yanawam, Shashimarka, Ana, La'an, Yanawam, Wala'an, Yayasan, Shashimar, Yashua, Yahweh, Shamar, Yahweh, Tokal, Yawam, Hashmash, La'am, Hakaya, Vayara, La'am, Valayala, Yahweh, Yashmai, Makam, Ra, Yashmai, Napasha, Yahweh, Yashapam, Hawalak, Wabawaya, Ma'aitan, I Ram, Bahasham, Yahweh, Tawada, Aman.
Psalms 121. I will lift up my eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help comes from the Lord which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Amen.
Amen. Shemaya Shemela, Hebrew Israel. Shemaya Shemela, Yahweh, Allah, Yahweh, Shemaya Shemela, Yahweh, Allah, Yahweh, Shemaya Yashrella, Yahweh, Allah, Yahweh.
Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Amen.
Amen. Stop like Yahweh prayer. Abba Yahweh,
Now,
Shemashmayim,
Rashemaiah,
Kodash,
God,
Hayam, Shankar, Yahweh, Malaka, Sabah, Batazawanga, Haya, Aisha, Ba'aratiza, Ka, Bashmayim, Natalanawa, Lakam, Yoham, Zah, Basalakanawa, Kabapakanawa, Kasalakanawa, Kabapakanawa, Wala'a, Habigan, O, Nasayam, Abo, Hawasai, Aram, Shayam, Lakam, Hamalaka, Wahala, Wataparab, La'aylam, Aman.
Matthew 6:9. After this manner therefore pray, our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, and we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Amen. Ha'aish Ramataza Wap the Ten Commandments. La'ah,
La'ah,
Yahaya,
Haya,
Lakar,
Ka,
Alahayim,
Alahaya,
Akarim,
Akari,
Al-Piyah,
Panya,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Thaisha,
Yaisha,
Bakar,
Ka,
Pasol,
Sa,
Wala'ah,
La'ah,
Thaibadam,
Wabidam,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Alakwaka,
Alakwaka,
Shamwa,
Shamwa,
Yahawah,
Hawa,
Alahayika,
Alahaya,
Lashua,
Shua,
Zakar,
Ka,
Ah,
Ah,
Hayawam,
Hayawam,
Kashabat,
Hashabat,
La Kadashra,
Nakodash,
Kabad,
Abad,
Abika,
Amka,
Wa Abakar,
Wa'amaka,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Tharatak,
Yatazak,
La'ah,
Ah,
Sana'ah,
Sana'ah,
La'ah,
Ah,
Thaganah,
Sagana,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Thainah,
Saina,
Shakur,
Shakur,
La'ah,
Ah,
Thakhamad,
Hamad,
Kum,
Ah,
Ashura,
Surah,
Lara'ayika,
Malaika,
Amen.
Amen. Exodus 22. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other God before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do full thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gate. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and holiday. Honor thy father, thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Amen.
Amen. Shabbat, be seated. Barak to Yahweh, Hashem Yahweh Shah, Asheran, Vilanawa, Arya, Gabu, Wada Amun, La Yahweh, Hashem Yahweh Shah, Hath, Yash, Ella. English translation. Blessed be Yahweh, Yahweh Shah, the Most High, the grace that gives to us the divine. So be it. To Yahweh in the name, to Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shah, with Israel. My brother, Ross, stand and face Jerusalem for the opening prayer. Barak Yahweh, Hagadol, Rakuam, Abiyah, Wanava'ah, Aliyah, Malak, Shom, Shemayim, Wa'arakah, Wakol, Jabayim, Kayayim, Wagam, Hamashiach, Mayahawa, Adawanah, Ahabnah, Apalab, Yahweh Itizah, Shai, Zakarnawa, Yahweh, Baratazawan, Anka, Yasha'ala, Isaiah, Mana, Wasa, Yasha'ala, O, Nanawa, Yam Yan, Aitha, Kayawamyam, Makwadam, Baba Kushah, Shalat, Maya Ka'ala, Wahatazibat, Alahayam, La, Maganawa, Rapanawa, Rashamar, Alnawa, Ba'aikwar, Shalat, Haroka, Sho, Yahawashai, Lanawa, Lalamanawa, Rabiam, Kakama, Tabawana, Wada'aith, Sho, Debaraka, Bahasham, Yahushai, Thowada, Thamyad, Waiwalam, Aman. English translation prayers. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth, and all things living, and also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor, Yahweh Shai. Remember us, Yahweh, favorably, your people Israel. Help us build and gather Israel. Most High, we beg you, right now, like the days of old. Please send Michael and the righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahweh Shai to us to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you always and forever. So be it. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives us the law. Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Lethalanawa, Hathawara. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives us light to see. Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Lethalanawa, War, Lara Awa. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the ram's horn to call the people. Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Lethalanawa, Koran, Ha'ayel, La Korah, Ha'aim. Yeshabah, be seated. All right. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
Happy feast of the dedication, or Ashar Kanakah in the Hebrew. This is the closing service, a feast week. O Lord's will has been a pleasant, happy feast week, a time of reflection, a time of celebration, a time of honor, and a time of looking forward to the future for what's also to come in store. So again, happy Chanukah or Shah Chanukah, happy feast of the rededication of the altar. I am Kahan Samak. It is my pleasure and privilege to do the closing service for Yasha Allah tonight. I see Yahweh Kanan's online. I see brother or sister, I'm not sure, OG Makeup. Shalom. Brother Lab Tawab and Sister Emma. Shalom. a warrior, shalom, and to all those who have still yet to log in, those listening on the teleconference line, shalom, peace and blessings to you all. So this is, when we go into the High Holy Days, all of the High Holy Days, it's a part of our history, right? We're just not reading stories. We just not read inspirational, as they say, inspirational text from the Bible just to kind of get us going on our way. This is our history book. This is lessons. Like it tells you in the New Testament, Romans 15:4, things written aforetime was written for our learning, right? So that's what we want to do. We want to go and learn of the past. We want to go past the 1600s, right? That's as far back as we collectively, especially those from the tribe of Judah that's over here in North, Central, and South America, from wherever we spread, that came over on a cargo slave ships from the transatlantic slave trade. That's where kind of our history begins, according to America or current state of education. But the Bible gives us our complete history, not only ours, but it gives us the whole world, the whole earth, right? How things came to be that the Most High has given to us in His record. So this is where we come and we read about these things, specifically us, because the Bible is the storyline of the children of Israel. Does it have other nations in there? Of course. It also, chronicalizes different empires, different people, key people that were brought up or reigned or did certain significant things, even of the other nations during those time periods. But the focal point is us, right? The focal point is to give us clues and characteristics, understanding in these last days. We come back to ourselves and we come back to our nationality to understand how we got to this point, what things transpired in the past, what agreements was made, what agreements was broken, right? Who rose up, who caused dissension, right? All of these things, are chronicalized in the Bible as much as the Most High wanted it to have, so that we can get the understanding. Let me go to one scripture real quick. This is Second Timothy's chapter 3 and verse 16. 2 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 16, where it says, all scripture is given by inspiration of God. So the record that we have in the Bible, the things that we read, has been inspired by God, given to certain men, certain prophets, certain sisters, to now go through, write down, record, so we can have it in these last days, right? So it was inspired by God. It tells you in Peter, these were holy men, right, that wrote the records of what they saw happening at that time, or the visions that the Most High was going to give them, or the history that happened before them. They wrote these things down, given this inspiration by God, and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, that the man of God may be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works. So that's what the objective is, to go through the Most High's word, like it says in Nehemiah 8:8, and read it distinctly, to try to get out as much information from these scriptures pertaining to our history and how that's going to execute what we just read in verse 17, so that we can be thoroughly furnished unto all good works, right? To learn the difference between good and evil, unclean and clean, holy from profane, right? Righteousness from wickedness. That's what the Most High wants us to be able to learn in these last days, by reading the scriptures, by reading the history, by reading the prophecy, right? So this is a part of that journey that we're reading here during the times of the Feast of the Dedication every year during the 9th month, right? Around the winter season, we go into the storyline. Sometimes you find out things that you didn't learn before. There may be some bit of history or some bit of information that we probably glossed over, or you read it 1,000 times, or it's like, yo, something just came to me. Something I just saw just came to me, and it made that verse a little bit more powerful. So that's what, the beauty of reading constantly does. It opens up different chambers and opens up different thoughts. The Most High may show you something that wasn't there before, that was written there, but it wasn't in your mind to understand it on that level. So that's the beauty of going into it. So again, this is the closing service really we're going into the second half of the storyline. Kahan Pequod last week on the opening read the first two chapters to give the backstory. We understand that Alexander the Great came into power, rose up, right, and was the first leader, pardon me, of what we know to be the Greeks Empire, right? And he went and conquered the Persians and the Medes and taken them down, right? They had a vast and great empire, but Alexander came up and conquered them and took them down, as we read in first chapter of First Maccabees. And then over time, he died at a young age, and his kingdom was split into four different pieces by four different people who was under his cabinet, right? And as the story goes on, we find out that one of those persons or one of those men was a Seleucus. And under the Seleucus dynasty is where we came into play, right? This is where our storyline fits in because they were the ones who had dominion over our region. And we find out that over time, there was a man that rose up named Antiochus Epiphanes, who went and pushed out an evil vibration that all those that was under his rule now had to conform to his philosophies, conform to their culture and their practices, right? And they pushed this doctrine upon us as a people, right? They went into our holy places and defiled them by putting up other altars on the altar that was made holy. When you read it in the first 5 books, when you read it in Exodus and Deuteronomy, the Most High told Moses and Aaron how to worship him as far as for in a tabernacle or in a temple or a sanctuary. And you now had to have holy vessels in there. But when the Greeks came into power, they went and defiled it by putting in another altar and offering up unclean animals upon the altar, having prostitutes and harlots and things going about the circuit places, right? Changing the culture of Israel, forcing us to abandon our laws and our customs, forcing us to change the name by which we were called by. And if we did not adhere to it, a lot of us was killed or murdered, right? So this is what was going on back then at that time with us. This is what we're reading about in the first chapter of the book of Maccabees. Then you get into the second chapter. You read about a great man by the name of Mattathias, who had sons who was now of the law. These were Levites, right? And they were loyal to the Most High, loyal to the covenant by which our forefathers had agreed to, but the Lord that we would keep. And then they saw that you had traitors in the ranks. Even though the Greeks was coming through and murdering and doing all kind of things to us, they saw that some of our people, pardon me, a lot of our people went and sided with the Greeks, conformed to their ways, inherited their doctrine. The Bible says that they made themselves uncircumcised, right? We're supposed to circumcise our minds and our spirits and our hearts. But when you give it over to another nation or you give it over to follow another doctrine, you have now made yourself uncircumcised spiritually. And that's what happened, right? We had now become a people that was supposed to be holy, and now we became profane. But you did have some family members like Mattathias and his sons that kept strong the law and began to contend for the faith, like it tells you in the book of Jude, right? I believe the 3rd verse, that they contended for the faith, not just orally, but even physically. Then you had another group of people called the Assyrians, who was also about the law, that joined forces with Mattathias and going about this campaign to now cause somewhat of a revolution to fight against the Greeks and to go and rid evil from amongst our people. This is what was going on in the second chapter. And they went and fought, and they began to take some of our own people and had to kill them as well. One thing you will learn, or we should have learned through our history, that in every revolution, there had to be murder or death or killings, right? That's the reality of a revolution, because some people who are now in control don't want to relinquish that which they have. You have to strong arm, right? Or they're coming against you in a strong arm tactic or manner. And you read that throughout the scriptures that happened time and time again with the former empires. Did not change when the Greeks came into power. So Mattathias and those men and women who was probably with them, they had to fight for the law. They had to fight for the name of the Most High. And it had to happen where some of our own people had to be moved out of the way. Then we see that at a certain point in time, Mattathias was at a point where he was on his deathbed, right? And then before he transitioned, he went and put things in the right place, right order, meaning by aligning his sons in the positions where they can go out and do certain things. One was going to be a counselor. One was going to be the one who was going to go out and fight for the people, right? That's what Mattathias did by now. Right before he died, he went and did these things. So this is where we're catching up now, back in the storyline of reading what happened after Mattathias transitioned to the Most High. But I'm going to read one other scripture before we read that. Go to the book of Ecclesiastes. I believe it's Ecclesiastes. Show them. I'm going to say it's the 7th chapter. Okay. Ecclesiastes, the 7th chapter, and the 1st verse. Oh, somebody read that. Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 1. Okay.
Ecclesiastes 7:1. A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth.
Right. So it says a good name is better than precious ointment, right? We read in the gospel when the sister came and poured an expensive box of ointment on Yahushua, signifying as far as for his burial when he was going to be crucified. And it was expensive, right? To the point that the disciples was a little bit upset at what was going on because this was something that could have made a lot of money. But here, wisdom says that a good name goes far beyond or far past any precious ointment that might be out there. And then in line with that, it says, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. So a lot of times we look at when a new baby is born, we make a big deal out of it, right? Oh, he looks so cute. Oh, you're making all this fuss, not knowing that you don't know if that child going to grow up to be wicked as hell, right? Go out there robbing and stealing, whoring and thugging and doing all kinds of things, or leading people astray into following all types of wickedness, idolatry, right? Don't care about the Most High, but we're praising them at their birth. We're praising them on their 3rd birthday and the 5th birthday. Okay, granted, they made it to the next one, but you got to see what works they're going to put forth. So that's why it says, and the day of death. Why? Because like Mattathias in the chapter 2, when he died in a good honor with a good name, to the point that it's now mentioned here in the scriptures. Just like other great men that did valiant acts for the nation of Israel, they died, and their name now is a memorial. It stayed the test of time, right? Because they did good works. But then you have others who was wicked as hell and was condemned. Check out the King Manasseh, right? That you read about. His prayer was in the Apocrypha. Now, for a good while during his reign, he was wicked, right? It was wicked. You would have thought that he would have been just like the rest of those other kings. But before his death, what did he do? He repented, right? He repented for what he had done and sent up that prayer to the point that the Most High even had to put that prayer or left that as a memorial in the scriptures. So we look at these men, Mattathias, Judas, Jonathan, Simon, all of them that's in that line of the Levites who now stood for us at that time, and the rest of those men, those Assyrians, they had a good name at the end of it all. So that's as we read. Some of them, of course, we know that they did not get us the kingdom, but the Most High gave us them at that point in time to help deliver us. One more. Go to the book of Nehemiah, the 9th chapter. Nehemiah, the 9th chapter, and the 27th verse. Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 27.
Nehemiah 9 and 27. Therefore thou deliverest them into the hand of their enemies who vexed them, and in the time of their trouble, when they cried unto thee, thou heardest them from heaven. And according to thy manifold mercies, thou gavest them saviors, saved them out of the hand of their enemies.
Right. So in the times of our captivities, in the times when we were delivered to the enemies and we turned to the Lord and prayed to him, the Lord rose up saviors. Right? Just like how Yahushua is the Savior, but prior to Yahushua, the Lord rose up other saviors to help deliver us from the times that we were in former captivities. So, like we read down with the Maccabees with the Feast of the Rededication, right? The memorial of what we're now celebrating, these were those saviors, Mattathias, and now we're transitioning into Judas Maccabees, right? One of the saviors the Most High gave us at that time. All right, so now let's jump into First Maccabees, third chapter. First Maccabees, the 3rd chapter, and the 1st verse.
I say something. That was a good pull that you did on 27. Was raised up saviors for Israel. 28 verse with our people really need to focus on.
Read that.
It says 28. But after they had rest, they did evil again before thee. Therefore thou leftest thou them in the hand of their enemies, so that they had the dominion over them. Yet when they returned and cried unto thee, thou heardest them from heaven, and many times didst thou deliver them according to thy mercy.
Right. So just like how you look in the book of Judges, right? The Lord rose up many judges during that time, and we see that, at one point the Most High delivered into the hand of our enemies. He raised up a judge. We was able to be delivered. Then right after that, went the hell off. Then the Lord delivered us right back into the hand of the enemies, which is the other nations. Then he raised up a savior again to help us deliver us. Then shortly after that, went the hell off again, right? So every time we turned away from the Most High and his law, we fell victim to captivities and plagues and atrocities, right? So to your point, great that the Lord delivers us saviors, and we've had many of them, but they didn't sustain themselves, right? We went right back off, right? So the point is, we have to understand what it is the cause or the catalyst by getting us into this situation. That's what a lot of our people that's out there in society cannot grasp. They think it's money because we don't have money. We don't have land. We don't have this. We just sit in this area over here. Even if we had the money, even if we had a person that's in that position, we're still going to be in the same place. The Lord is going to deliver us into those nations because we abandoned the covenant, right? Time and time again.
Thank the Most High for Christ for this last captivity.
It's the last one, right? Tells you that, what is that, Lamentations? It's the last one. We don't have to worry about this, but we still gotta make it, right? We still gotta endure to the end. We still gotta strengthen our spirits. We gotta get our minds right so that what's still left to come, we know how to, arm ourselves to defend against the fiery darts that's going to be coming from Satan, right? So let's continue on in First Maccabees, the 3rd chapter, in the storyline. So it reads, it says, then his son, his being Mattathias, son Judas, called Maccabeus, rose up in his stead, and all his brethren helped him. And so did all they that held with his father, and they fought with cheerfulness the battle of Israel. So just like in past times, when you had a leader, right, who transitioned or went back to the third heaven, you had someone who rose up in their stead. And Israel had to rally around them and treat them now as the next leader that was going to deliver or lead Israel. Let's go to Joshua chapter 1. Joshua chapter 1. Usually read this because it kind of lines up. Joshua 1 and 16.
16.
Con.
And she said, get you to the mountain.
Chapter 1.
1 and 16. And they answered Joshua, saying, all that thou commandest us, we will do, and whithersoever thou sendest us, we will come. According as we hearken unto Moses and all things, so will we hearken unto thee. Only the Lord thy God be with thee as he was with Moses. Whosoever he be that will rebel against thy commandments, and will not hearken to thy words and all that thou commandest him, he shall be put to death. Only strong and of good courage.
Right. So anybody that comes against you, as long as you've flown in the spirit the Most High, and you've given us order and direction on how to go out there and defend and fight for the nation, if anybody come up against it, because that's like saying somebody's now coming up against the Most High, right? Because that was the law. Anybody goes against the Most High or that comes with another God or tries to get you to go follow or worship something else, what are we supposed to do? Put them to death. So that's what they're saying at this time. They're looking at this man like how Moses saw the Most High face to face. Anybody come against you, we're going to put them to death, right? Long as you rolling with the Most High, like the Most High was rolling with Moses, we with you. So that's that, camaraderie that you want after the person that succeeded him or the person now whose predecessor is deceased. Now you have to have somebody else. That's what usually happens, especially when you're out fighting a war. When your captain of the host or your leader goes, everybody's done. Like everybody don't want to fight no more. Like, oh man, this guy, they done killed the leader. They done killed this person, right? They want to keep that inspiration going. That's why when we read a couple months back in the Kings, when David was getting old, what did they tell David? They said, David, you too valuable to us. You can't go out no more, right? Because David wasn't as youthful as he was before. And they said, we can't lose you in the war. Don't worry, we got you. You just got to stay back, right? Because they knew that they needed to have a captain of the host. And that's what he was. That's what Moses was. And when he left, that's what Joshua became. So now Mattathias was there. Mattathias transitions. Now here comes Judas, and they're now doing the same thing. Let's go back to 1 Maccabees 3. So verse 3 now, it says, so he got his people great honor and put on a breastplate as a giant and girt his warlike harness about him. And he made battles protecting the host with his sword, right? So the key thing is that he was protecting. He wasn't, insatiable that he wanted to go out and conquer the world. Even though the world was for us, like we read in 1 Esdras, right? 6th chapter. Even though the world was given to us, he was protecting the home front from what? The Greeks, the Idumeans. Because in the Apocrypha, right, it's going to call Esau, it's going to call the Idumeans, going to call the Greeks the Idumeans. So that's who he's fighting against. Protecting those who were still fighting for the covenant against them. And he got a great name in defending us at that time, as it says. Verse 4, in his acts, he was like a lion and like a lion's whelp roaring for the prey, right? So he was like a young, youthful lion, right? That was ready to pounce or ready to deal with any action. He wasn't backing down, right? You read about that in Genesis, the 49th chapter, about Judah being a lion's whelp, but then over time turning into an old lion, right? An old lion is not as youthful. He's not ready to go out there and fight all the battles. That lion's whelp, that young one, he's looking for any action, right? It says in verse 5, for he pursued the wicked and sought them out and burnt up those that vexed his people. Wherefore the wicked shrunk for fear of him, and all workers of iniquity were troubled, because salvation prospered in his hand. So as he's now overcoming these small battles, these wars, they're mounting up, right? And his name, his reputation is now beginning to spread. Now, as it's beginning to spread, other people who was doing wickedly, they now had to watch themselves, because it's like, these guys is now making sure that we don't go out there and commit these atrocities. We don't do these practices anymore. So people began to shrink and for fear and run probably to the heathen, or run to go and now make a report about what Judas and those that were with him were doing. It says in verse 7, he grieved also many kings and made Jacob glad with his acts, and his memorial is blessed forever. Right? So he made Jacob, talking about, our ancestors. You could look at it from as a forefather, right? A righteous forefather, or just the whole nation, those of us who took upon that name Jacob, right? Or Israel. He made us glad, made us happy, made us proud, right? Because he left a good memorial after he died. Yahweh Kanana, if you could read Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, chapter 41, verse 13.
Ecclesiastes 41, verse 13. A good life had but few days, but a good name endureth forever.
Right. A good life have but a few days, but a good name endures forever. So you have something, and there's a scripture, I forget where it is, that the Most High sometimes will take you from the earth, take you from this realm and bring you back to the third heaven, so that you don't have to deal with some of these things. And sometimes we don't understand how the Most High take good people like that, right? Hawashai was 33. You had other men who was young when they went and did their things and was taken up, right? But that name is going to last forever, even after you go. Today, sometimes we remember wicked people, their music, their art, things that they did, right? Tupac, his name still is going on, right? People wasn't even born when Tupac died. Now they said they know Tupac, right? They rock Tupac t-shirts, right? Because that's the vibration of these times and these days where we recognize evilness or wickedness. So we're going to recognize those righteous men who stood for the law, who stood for, the nation, our livelihood, the temple. So reading on verse 8, moreover, he went through the cities of Judah, destroying the ungodly out of them and turning away wrath from Israel, so that he was renowned unto the utmost part of the earth. And he received unto him such as were ready to perish, right? So now you have his name really reaching far and wide. And then now you had others who gave up their lives or put their lives on the line to come and side with Judas, because this wasn't the norm. This wasn't the status quo. Of course, he was public enemy number one at this time during the Greek Empire. Let's go to chapter 9 in First Maccabees. Chapter 9. First Maccabees chapter 9. And I'm going to start at verse 7. It says, when Judas therefore saw that his host slipped away and that the battle pressed upon him, he was sore troubled in mind and much distressed, for that he had no time to gather them together. So now the fight is going on, and some of the people that's in the ranks, they're starting to slip away. Some of them dying, some of them run away, and he don't have enough time at that moment to just go and rally the whole troop, right? So now he's kind of like perplexed on how he's going to handle the situation. Verse 8, nevertheless, unto them that remained, right? So some left, because it says some slipped away. Those that stayed there, they didn't run. It says, he said, let us arise and go up against our enemies, if peradventure we may be able to fight with them. But they deported him, saying, we shall never be able. Let us now rather save our lives, and hereafter we will return with our brethren and fight against them, for we are but few. Right? So some of them was like, nah, Judas, we can't do this, man. We don't have enough. We don't got the numbers. Right? It's strength in numbers. Let's retreat. Let's bounce. And later on we'll come back, and then we'll be able to deal with them. Right? This is the thinking. They're just like, listen, we're gonna get out of here. But then verse 10, it says, then Judas said, God forbid that I should do this thing and flee away from them. If our time be come, let us die manfully for our brethren, and let us not stain our honor, right? So now when it's talking about you had people who was willing to die, this is what Judas had to now tell those men that was there. Nah, we ain't leaving, because if we leave, we leaving some others that's out there. Listen, if it be that the Most High want us to die here, then we gonna die here, right? If it's our time, it's our time. Let us not run and put a stain on our name. They're gonna say Judas was fighting against them, but what happened? The heathens made him run, and they was chasing him. You be like, damn, they was chasing Judas? Not Judas. I don't think you're talking about the right person. Nah, it was Judas that they was chasing. So Judas is like, nah, I ain't gonna run, right? I'm gonna stand 10 toes down right here, and we're gonna fight. If I die, I die, right? So that's where you had other people who was of that same mindset, or that same cloth, that says, I'm going to come with you, right? Yeah, it happens, right? Yeah, it's like, yo, man, it's like 183 of us. It's like 4,000 or something of them, right? That's why you always, that's why the purpose of reading the scriptures, to go back in history, get those examples where we was always outnumbered and the Lord delivered us. So it's not about the numbers. It's about if our mind is in tune with the Lord, if we do the things that the Lord tells us to do, blow the ram's horn, right? It tells you that in the law. Right before you go out to battle, you're supposed to do what? Blow the ram's horn. Send up those prayers, right? Make sure that everybody that's in the ranks is in the right spirit. You don't want nobody that's up in there who's talking about some other god, or he's carrying some idol, and he's touching it. Nah, you can't have none of that stuff going on. Everybody got to be on point, right? And the Most High come fight for you. So let's go back. First Maccabees 3:10 now.
Go by movie 300, right? You see the movie 300 is them versus a whole bunch of people, and they're willing to die, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened.
So I'm gonna read that in verse 9 again. It says, so that he was renowned unto the utmost part of the earth, and he received unto him such as were ready to perish, right? So back in First Maccabees 3:9, I was just rereading what we read. So that's why you'll see in the second chapter, I think back in verse 42, that the Assyrians came and joined Mattathias and Judas and them. They were devoted to the law, right? So they would give themselves, their lives up for the covenant, the Assyrians, right? That's First Maccabees 2:42. Kahan Kwai read that last week. So now let's read on verse 10. Then Apollonius gathered the Gentiles together and a great host out of Samaria to fight against Israel. Which thing when Judas perceived, he went forth to meet him. And so he smote him and slew him. Many also fell down slain, but the rest fled. So, you know, he's at lion's whelp. This guy's coming to fight against Israel, fight against our brethren, right? To come conquer us and take us down. Judas went out to meet him, right? He ain't running from the battle. I'm gonna go out there and meet him. And he goes out there and begins to win this battle. Some begin to flee. Sometimes you'll see that they be fleeing, they be chasing them and still slicing and dicing them down as they're running away. It says in verse 12, wherefore Judas took their spoils and Apollonius' sword also, and therewith he fought all his life long, right? So he took the sword from Apollonius. It had to be a nice sword that was made for him, and he fought with it, right? You remember, I think I mentioned this before, when King David defeated Goliath. Initially, the sword that Goliath, they said it was like a weaver's beam. It was like they took that, the priest took that and put that up in the sanctuary. But then when David was on the run, he came to the priest and said, hey, do you have any weapon of such and such here? And he was like, the only thing here is Goliath's sword. So give me that. So he took the sword that Goliath had, and that's what David was using when he went out after that, right? So it wasn't like to say, oh, he took an unclean sword. No, this was something to kill, because you using it as a killing instrument, You killing people with it, right? You know, the law says when you shed blood like that, and you have so much blood, you yourself are going to be unclean. You got to purify yourself before you come back into the camp. So this wouldn't have mattered at that point. So now reading on verse 13. Now when Saron, a prince of the army of Syria, heard say that Judas had gathered unto him a multitude in the company of the faithful to go out with him to war, he said, I will get me a name and honor in the kingdom, or I will go fight with Judas and them that are with him, who despise the king's commandment, right? So this guy says, I'm about to become prestige. I'm about to get me a name. If I take this guy out, right, then they're going to elevate me. They're going to be praising me. They're going to be singing things about me, right? So pride is setting in this guy, right? He's thinking that he's going to go and do something that wasn't done before and get a name. Let's go to two scriptures. Go to Proverbs chapter 25, 27, and then first Maccabees chapter 5. So first Proverbs 2 and 27. I'm sorry, 25 and 27. Proverbs chapter 25 and verse 27. For quiet, if you can read that, Baba Kushai.
Proverbs 25 and verse 27 reads, it is not good to eat much honey. So for men to search their own glory is not glory.
Right. So it says it's not good to eat much or a lot of honey, right? Honey is good. Things done in excess can be bad, right? It says, so for men to search their own glory, to go out there and fight and defend your people, your honor, your nation, that's good. But when you go search your own glory, that's not glory. That's not getting you a name, right? Now you're doing it under other pretenses. Now, this was the heathen that did this. But now, you think that, does this not happen within Israel? Go to First Maccabees chapter 5. First Maccabees chapter 5 and verse 50, verse 55. First Maccabees 5 and 55.
First Maccabees 5 and verse 50. Now, what time has Judas and Jonathan were in the land of Gilead, and Simon his brother in Galilee before Solomon. Joseph, son of Zacharias, and Isaias, captains of the garrison, heard of the valiant acts and warlike deeds which they had done.
Mm-hmm.
Wherefore they said, let us also get us a name and go fight against the heathen that are round about us.
Right. So they're hearing all the fame that Judas and these other men is getting. And they like, and they are captains of the garrisons that they was put out their post. So they said, you know what? Yo, we can go get us a name too. Yo, we could be as famous as these dudes, right? You know, that's like today's thing. People love, you know, want to get that fame, want to be adored, right? Want everybody to start singing their praises. That's what these guys said. Let us go get us a name by fighting up against the enemies and defeating them. And then there we go. We're gonna get lifted up. Read. This is First Maccabees 5. We have verse 58 now.
So when they had been changed, when they had been charged to the garrison that was with them, they went towards Germany.
Right. So they leave their post. They're like, listen, you guys hold us down. We're about to leave to go to Champion. Right? We were supposed to be here, but we're going to go get a name for ourselves. Read.
Then came Gorgias and his men out of the city to fight against them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was that Joseph and Isaias were put to flight and pursue unto the borders of Judea.
Mm-hmm.
And there were slain that day of the people of Israel about 2,000 men.
Right. So these guys, these two brothers that was captain, Joseph and Azariah, they had 2,000 men with them. And all of them got slain, 2,000 that went out to try to help get a name for themselves. Read.
Thus was there a great overthrow among the children of Israel, because they were not obedient unto Judas and his brethren, but thought to do some valiant.
So now, because they disobeyed the order, that's why we read in Joshua when they said, anybody want to come up against you and not follow your order, we're going to put them to death. Here is the Most High now allowed the heathen to put these men to death because they disobeyed the order that Judas and the men left for them to go get them a name. Read.
Moreover, these men came not of the seed of those by whose hand deliverance was given unto Israel.
Right. So it says, now check this out. These guys that went and did this, they wasn't of that seed by whom deliverance was given to Israel. Meaning, even though they was Israelites, even though that there was now soldiers fighting within in the ranks, giving order, the Most High knew who these men were. They were not the ones, even though they were amongst us, right? The Lord says that's why they died, giving that insight to the author to let it be known that sometimes within your camp, within your school, within your nation, you're going to have people that's written out of the book of life. They were not meant to make it. That's just the reality. Some people are going to fall off. Some people are going to do just that. I recall there were certain brothers years ago, they went and tried to get a name for themselves, right? Not fighting the war, but they wanted to go out and start getting on the street, cutting and cussing and doing this and the third. They wanted to go out and get all types of knowledge and wisdom so they could be seen as, just like how they have the conscious community now, they wanted to be seen as the ones who got all the knowledge. And they left and they with that and did all this stuff. And what happened? It fell off. They don't have no name. You don't even see them. They're not doing the work no more. They're not even in that arena no more. They're just out there in the world because they disobeyed the order. They didn't follow or contend for the faith. They wanted to give themselves a name. Read on, 63.
Howbeit the man Judas and his brethren were greatly renowned in the sight of all Israel, and all of the heathen, wheresoever their name was heard of.
Come on.
And so much as the people assembled unto them with joyful acclamation.
Right. So they just let their works, their actions speak for themselves. They didn't say Judas and he was going to get him a name. He was out there to fight for the people. That's all he was doing. And the name and that came after. Not the other way around where you think I'm going to go and get this and I got to go do this act. No. And that's what happened. That's what these heathen is saying here with Seron and them back in 1 Maccabees, the 3rd chapter. All right, so let's go back. We read from verse 55 and we stopped at 64. First Maccabees 5, 55 to 64 to link up here with verse 14. So now we're back to First Maccabees 3 and 15 now. It says, so he made him ready to go up, and there went with him a mighty host of the ungodly to help him, and to be avenged of the children of Israel. And when he came near to the going up of Beth Horon, Judas went forth to meet him with a small company, who, when they saw the host coming to meet them, said unto Judas, how shall we be able, being so few, to fight against so great a multitude and so strong, seeing we are ready to faint with fasting all this day, right? So now when Seron and the host that's coming with them, Judas and his men go out. But now prior to this, Judas and the men was doing what? Fasting, right? It's another part of, like when we go into the Day of Atonement, we go into the Gospels when Yahushua is, working and grooming the disciples and trying to get them to overcome certain demons that's on certain people or certain obstacles. Yahushua said, this time come not up by fasting, showing that fasting brings you closer to spirituality, certain things. The Lord gives you certain gifts. So these men was fasting already, but at the same time, we at war. So they said, how we gonna go fight against these guys? We only got but so many people, and we tired, Judas. Like, I don't think we could do this. And a lot of times when you see some of these conversations that happen, just like when you read in Joshua's time when he sent the spies out, they went to go spy out the land. What happened? They brought back what kind of a report? A false report, right? They was now exaggerating on what they were seeing, and as far as for the giants and all kind of things. Oh, they got walls. It's too difficult. We can't do it. But Joshua didn't realize these guys is lying. They was fearful, right? Sometimes the men gonna be fearful, so you gotta set them straight. You gotta let them know that, listen, I don't care how big they are. I don't care how many of them it is. Don't matter, right? You always got that guy. You need that guy that's going to now inspire you and get that spirit off you. The hell with them. I don't care what they got. I don't care how much muscles they got, how many weapons they got. Don't matter. We got the Most High. The Most High. Yeah, you forgot what the Lord did? You forgot during the time of this one, during the time of that? So you need those remembrances to let us know that, listen, the Lord has done so many things for us over the years. And now Judas has to do the same thing again. So reading on, it says in verse 18, unto whom Judas answered, it is no hard matter for me to be shut up in the hands of a few. And with the power of heaven, it is all one to deliver with a great multitude or a small company. First Maccabees 3 and 18. So we read it again. Unto whom Judas answered, it is no hard matter for many to be shut up in the hands of a few. Right? It's not difficult for the Lord to allow 5 people to destroy 200 or 2,000, right? Because we know the Lord allows, sometimes he'll send the angels to come down and fight. Or he'll put the spirit on a brother or brothers to give them the spirit of might, like Samson had, to go out there and defeat, right, a whole plethora of people. Put the spirit of might on like David had. David had the spirit of might, right? The mighty man had the spirit of might. The Lord could put that on him. It says, and with the God of heaven, the power of heaven, it is all one to deliver with a great multitude or a small company, for the victory of battle standeth not in the multitude of an host, but strength cometh from heaven, right? So our strength comes from the Most High. Doesn't matter what we got in our hands as far as for swords, guns, weapons, knives, whatever, it don't matter, right? Chemicals, right? A lot of times people rely on having the tangible thing. It's the intangible. The invisible power is what all we need. You can write down Proverbs 33. Proverbs, the 33rd chapter. It's a lot, not Proverbs. I got the wrong precept here. It's not what it said. It's written.
No, give you the word behind it. I don't know if you remember something out here.
I know, same thing I could have found, but I don't have. Yeah. Don't worry, I get it. It'll come back. It'll come back to me.
No, I said cool.
Yeah, I get it. So let's read on. We have verse 20. Hold on one second. All right, instead of Proverbs, it was Psalms a lot. It was Psalms 33. Psalms 33 and 16. Psalm 33 and verse 16.
Psalm 33:16. There is no king saved by the multitude of hosts. A mighty man is not delivered by much strength.
Right. So no king because he got a lot of guys, a lot of men, tanks, weapons, right? Doesn't matter. Or a mighty man because he did like 400 bench presses or sit-ups and whatever. Doesn't matter. That's not how he's delivered. Read.
And horse is a vain thing for safety, neither shall he deliver any by his great strength.
Mm-hmm.
Behold, the eye of the Lord is upon them that fear him, upon them that hope in his mercy,
Mm-hmm.
to deliver their soul from death and to keep them alive and pain.
Mm-hmm.
Our soul waiteth for the Lord. He is our help and our shield.
He is our help and our shield. He is our defense, right? He is our protector. That's what's going to deliver you in the times of famine, the times of trouble or war. The Lord is the first line of defense. The Lord is the last line of defense, right? Psalms 33, 16 to 20. So that's what Judas is trying to convey to these men at this time, that we always got to remember or keep our eye on the Most High as our help. So let's go back to 1 Maccabees 3 and 20 now. It says, 1 Maccabees 3 and 20. They come against us in much pride and iniquity to destroy us and our wives and our children and to spoil us. But we fight for our lives and our laws. Wherefore the Lord himself will overthrow them before our face. And as for you, be ye not afraid of them, right? So when you're fighting for the law, right, that was given to us by the Most High, that's a sacred thing. When someone tries to come against those who are trying to keep the law, the Most High will come and defend you, right? But now when you're going out there doing all kind of other wicked things, the Most High is not looking to deliver you when your mind and your spirit ain't right, right? That's why it tells you, I think in 1 Peter's the 4th chapter, right? When you suffer as a Christian, right? That's a good thing. Doesn't matter what they say about you, whatever, but don't suffer as a busybody, as a murderer, as the Lord ain't coming to defend you when you're doing these things, right? The Lord ain't coming to defend you when you're working out your own salvation by doing your own will. And then at the last, you want to call on the Lord. No, you have to do it according to how the Lord prescribes it in the scriptures. Use the other men and women as the example on what to do and what not to do, as we've been reading. So it says in verse 33, now as soon as he had left off speaking, he leaped suddenly upon them. And so Seron and his host was overthrown before him. And they pursued them from the going down of Beth-horon unto the plain, where were slain about 800 men out of them. And the residue fled into the land of the Philistines. Then began the fear of Judas and his brethren, and an exceeding great dread to fall upon the nations round about them, inasmuch as his fame came unto the king, and all nations talked of the battles of Judas. So it began to now even spread even more. When Seron and these men, when they fell, now it spread, it got into the ears of the nations and their higher ups, right? Their leaders began to hear about this, right? They now went into the gates. That's like in Isaiah 13th chapter, where it talks about going into the gates of the nobles, right? Point the finger, shake the hand. That's kind of like what's going on now. Now the people is carrying that message. Man, you got to hear what this guy Judas and these Israelites is doing, right? They're going out there fighting against anyone who comes against them, right? They're talking about they're not following the Greek culture. They're keeping their own laws. And who's going to stop them, right? You know, sometimes they like to embellish and add on, and they're going to start saying other things. And he's saying, the hell with the king. What you going to do, sir? Sire, what are you going to do? He's saying, the hell with the king. He's the king, right? They got the real guy. So all these things now began to start matriculating across the different empires, different realms. It says in verse 27, now when King Antiochus heard these things, he was full of indignation. Wherefore he sent and gathered together all the forces of his realm, even a very strong army. He opened also his treasure and gave his soldiers pay for a year, commanding them to be ready whensoever he should need them, right? So he now had them like on consignment, gave them money ahead of time, right? Paid them well, went into his treasury, all different kind of gold, silver, victuals, whatever it was needed for them that they sufficed them, that he gave. And now they was aligned to him. And when he called, they were supposed to come and do that work, right? You see sometimes in certain movies, you got these rovers or different people that's out in different areas. And then as they're going out, they get that phone call and they just get the location. And they go and says, okay, that's the mark. Okay, we're going to go get them. This is kind of like what these soldiers was. They was like on consignment, paid for a year by Antiochus, that when the time comes, we got to go fight. So it says in verse 29, nevertheless, when he saw that the money of his treasure failed, and that the tributes in the country were small because of the dissension and plague which he had brought upon the land, and taking away the laws which have been of old time. Check that out, right? So here it is. That's what he was normally accustomed to doing, is going out there, getting a lot of money. Like Esau likes to go out different places, or nations go out there and steal resources from the land, from the people, right? And use that for their own benefit. But now when Israel were in our land, they come and they force us to stop keeping the laws. Once the laws was removed, guess what came in? Plagues. So now the land is not going to give its increase like it normally would, right? Now the Lord is not going to allow things to prosper like it normally would prosper. So here it is. He would think that these things was now going to happen. The Lord put the plague. So you can't go out there and get these things. You can't go out there and do these things no more. But he wouldn't know that. He wouldn't understand that this is the thing of the Most High that now caused this plagues to happen, because removing the laws from the children of Israel would now cause all kind of his wickedness.
It's funny too now. History and prophecy always repeats itself. Same thing when it came to the Americans.
Yep.
When it came to the Americans, man, it was the first thing to take out Gad and Reuben. Plagues, all types of venereal diseases, smallpox, and here it is on the top period. We reach, man, the same situation is going forward. Yep. When they came to our land, that's when all the plagues and the diseases came forward.
Yep.
So it's showing you that everything's so accurate according to these scriptures, man, it can't be denied.
Yep. And the key part, it says, and the tribute country was small because of the dissension and plague which he brought upon the land, in taking away the laws which had been of old time. So the plagues came when the removal of the law came, right? So as he was now going in there, the Lord had already did his thing. You read in 2 Maccabees, the 6th chapter, how all this started and it just got worse, right? They started setting up gymnasiums, changing the names of the temple and the tabernacles, saying that you can't call yourself a Jew, you got to call yourself a heathen now. Oh, you can't keep the Sabbath day. So now that began to be the destruction and the deterioration of us as a people. And understanding that we're talking about the rededication of the altar within the temple and how it was desecrated, how it was now, defiled or polluted. We usually sometimes become, a picture or vision of that. So when the temple got defiled, look at us, right? Look what happened to us. The Lord tells you that if it had not been that we have been wrapped up in sins, that those things would never happen to the temple. They would have never been able to go in there and defile and desecrate the temple the way they did. But because we was messed up, now what happened? It became a reflection on the temple. It got defiled, right? Once we get ourselves back like we're about to do, then what? The temple could be rededicated and everything goes good. And then what happens? We're going to go right back off again. And it's going to repeat itself. So now reading on verse 30. It says, he feared that he should not be able to bear the charges any longer, nor to have such gift to give so liberally as he did before, for he had abounded above the kings that were before him. Wherefore, being greatly perplexed in his mind, he determined to go into Persia, there to take the tributes of the countries and to gather much money, right? So that's what they do, right? So he saw it done. He said, listen, man, I done ran out of money. I done ran out of resources. What's the next best thing? I'm going to go into another country, rape, rob, and pillage, and then be able to come back and rule with an iron thumb, right? So that's what he want. I'm going to go into Persia and take their riches, take their jewelry, take their gold, and then come back and then go fight against Judas enough, right? So it says in verse 32, So he left Lysias, a nobleman and one of the blood royal, to oversee the affairs of the king from the river Euphrates unto the borders of Egypt, and to bring up his son Antiochus until he came again, right? So he had to leave someone in his stead to take care of the affairs of that whole realm. Is that, you know, from the river Euphrates all the way to the borders of Egypt. Verse 34. Moreover, he delivered unto him the half of his forces and the elephants, and gave him charge of all things that he would have done, as also concerning them that dwelt in Judah and in Jerusalem. So now half the forces, half the army, along with, you know, back then the elephants and things, because, you know, these were big beasts. There was other ones, they were able to be used as weapons, right? Especially when you're sitting up on top of the elephant and you just shoot certain things and you protect them with armor, you can just go and start allowing the elephant to stamp on the different men. This whole bunch of 7 or 10 or whatever, just going in a line. He left them with Lysias to now protect the realm until he comes back, and then to raise up his successor, which was going to be his son. It says in verse 35, to wit, that he should send an army against them to destroy and root out the strength of Israel and the remnant of Jerusalem, and to take away their memorial from that place. So he left Lysias thinking that Lysias is now going to be able to be the captain of the host to go and fight against Israel. I got to go get more money. But while I'm gone, handle that problem for me. That's what I need you to do. Take care of that. Him thinking that it's a small thing, right? It's not that big. It's little old Israel, right? Judas, they only got like 500 men, 600 men fighting. When go handle that. I'll be back, right?
More resources, right?
To get more money. So now it says in verse 16, and that he should place strangers in all their quarters and divide their land by lot. Telling, right? So go and destroy them, remove them out of their place, and do what? Put strangers in their land. Because putting strangers in their land allows them to not be in the land, allows them to not keep their laws and covenant, and allows their God to not be with them. This is not the first time this happened. As we read later on in the book of Kings, as we're reading the Sabbath services, we'll see that this is going to repeat itself, right? This is going to repeat itself during another empire where they now go out and they conquer us from the northern tribe, removing them out of the land and putting in Hamites, right? Same thing. So now today, when you look at what's going on today, there's strangers in the land, right? Look at what's going on in the land. It's plagued because the real people is not in the land and the law is not being executed in the land.
Can I read scripture?
Go ahead.
Zechariah chapter 12, verse 3. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people of the earth be gathered together against it. So we get, you know, we become a problem. You know, they want to conquer so bad, but it's causing them so much resources, men, and so on and so forth.
And when it's talking about, you know, a burdensome stone, right? It's both the land and the people, right? Because the land, because you know, when you read Ezekiel, it talks about them taking possession of the land and possession of the people, right? And they're making boasts. That's what it says. Aha! Look what we did, right? We got the people and we got the land, and they're making a boast about it. I think it's Ezekiel the 35th chapter, right? But we and the land is a burdensome stone. So all that's going on right now is because it's a burden to try to occupy our land, whether you are Ishmael or whether you are Esau or any other nations that's now also in the land trying to get crumbs. It's a burdensome stone. To now be an owner or try to possess us, it comes with a consequence, right? It comes with a consequence for doing what you are doing what you have done or are doing to the apple of the Most High's eye, which is his people. Exodus 4:22, his firstborn son. That's like him. Israel is my son, even my firstborn. So, yes, they're gonna see that trying to now go and occupy and take what's now given to someone else, and they've seen it, right? But here, he was going to go into another land and do what they do, right? These are the Idumeans, Esau. So now, verse 37. So the king took the half of the forces that remained and departed from Antioch, his royal city, the 147th year, and having passed through the river Euphrates, he went through the high places. And again, this is verse 30, high country. This is verse 37. So I point out these things because the Most High left other breadcrumbs in here, because he's given us the years. He's given us the actual year in the 147th year. So this is the 147th year of the Greeks' reign. So now you can go into history and go check out when Antiochus was ruling and find out what was going on during his period. And you'll say, well, hold on, Dad, he did try to go into Persia in the 104. The Most High put that in the scriptures. It's on point, right? So this is just not words. This is not just made up. No, this is a chronicle of what was going on during the Greek Empire when it pertained to us, right? So now, verse 38. Then Lysias chose Ptolemy, the son of Dormenes, and Nicanor and Gorgias, mighty men of the king's friend. And with them he sent 40,000 footmen and 7,000 horsemen to go into the land of Judah and to destroy it, as the king commanded. So they went forth with all their power and came and pitched by Emmaus in the plain country. And the merchants of the country, hearing the fame of them, took silver and gold very much with the servants, and came into the camp to buy the children of Israel with slaves. A power also of Syria and of the land of the Philistines joined themselves unto them. So you now had the heathens round about, right? That was saying, hey, y'all hear this? They about to go up and fight against those Israelites. Get some money together. How much you got? How much you got? I think we can go get some saved. Knowing that, like you read in the book of Daniel, Kahan brought it out last time, you read in the book of Daniel, we were known for being wise individuals. We were known for being, look at what Joseph did in Egypt, right? This was known. Hold this, let me read this. Go to the book of Daniel, chapter 1. So when you get us as a slave, you're saying just getting any old regular person. Nah, we Israelites, right? We're a peculiar people. We're the salt of the earth. So this is what they think they was getting. Daniel's the first chapter. And the third verse.
Daniel 1 and 3. And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel and of the king's seed and of the princes.
Right. So now he's speaking to the eunuch, right? The eunuch is the one who's usually placed over your helm, but he deals with attends to all your affairs. So now he's giving them charge to go and bring certain of the children of Israel, right? Read.
Children whom was no blemish, but well favored, and skillful in all wisdom and cunning and knowledge and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans.
Right. So now you get some Israelites that is skillful in all wisdom, not some wisdom, not a little bit. You had some of us who were skillful in all cunning, right? Had understanding of the sciences. So when now we start dealing with just common things in the world, we the ones that understand that stuff. The Lord put the spirit in us, right? So imagine you getting slaves like this, like during this time, during the Babylonian Empire, when Daniel and the rest of them was there, to say, hey, go get these men, bring them in my court. Now, some of them were going to be well taken care of, right? Because they're going to be a benefit to you. Now, imagine the Philistines and all these other nations coming and saying, I'm going to go and get me a slave, right? They just want to do any old thing with us as a servant, as a slave, but we just not regular folks. So they trying to get money up to come and get us as slaves. Go to Revelation, chapter 18. So these was, as it's stated here in 1 Maccabees 3:41, and the merchants of the country. Merchant is what? People who trade, right? They trade different, resources and things that they have profitable or surplus in their area. Whether you got oranges, you got wheat, you got barley, you got iron, you got rubber, or whatever, you start trading these things, right? So this is Revelations 18 and verse, I'm going to start at 1, and then I'm going to jump. Read 1 and 2, whoever's reading.
Revelations 18:2. He cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird.
Right, so Babylon, modern day Babylon, not ancient Babylon, modern day Babylon, the last empire before Christ returns. We always say we're in the last days, right? We're seeing the prophecies unfold before our eyes. So now if we're seeing these events that Christ foretold, that the prophets foretold, then all you have to go look and say, well, who is the one, what people are ruling right now? Then they must be Babylon, right? It's just like, process of elimination, right? You can't be Persia, can't be Ham, can't be the Japhetic people. Who does it be? Oh, it can't be China. Oh, it gotta be doggone Esau, right? They the ones that's ruling. They're the ones that's doing this and that, giving money here and there, right? So Babylon is falling. Jump to verse 10.
Revelations 18:10. Standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come.
So the scripture is saying that in 1 hour, the final judgment of Babylon is going to happen within an hour, right? And there's already prophecies that's already foretold about the fiery arrows that's going to be now let loose in that day following in the midst of the Third World War, that's going to now ultimately destroy Babylon. But before that, read
11. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buys their merchandise anymore.
So the merchants of the earth, just like we're reading here during the times of the Greeks, here in the Maccabees, you have merchants of the country that came to do what? Buy and sell with them. So now here in the last days with Babylon, there's merchants that's also have been selling on the trading on the stock market, the global stock market, right? When you look at the earth, we were talking about this, I forget, a few months ago, when you look at the earth and how things are set up with all the ships and the planes and the tradings that go across, right? While the Suez Canal was made, while the Panama Canal was made, that was for the trading to now go from one place to the next. You can Google it. You'll see with all these things how it happens. That's why during the time of COVID, what happened? All the ships was on the side out there in the Pacific Ocean by California. Ships was in the Atlantic Ocean over here because where they couldn't dock. All the merchandise was just sitting out there in the waters. So now people from all over the earth are sharing and trading different things. Let's see. Read.
12. Merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones, and of pearls and of fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and all fine wood, and all manner of vessels of ivory and all manner of vessels of most precious wood, and of brass and iron and marble, cinnamon and odors and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil, and fine flour and meat, and beasts and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men.
It says all these commodities that they're trading on the stock market, right? Some that you're aware of, some that you're not aware of. But the ones that now it ends off with, it says, and slaves and souls of men, right? Now we're hearing about, in the last 10, 20 years, now it's becoming more prevalent that, there's a market where they're selling girls or they're selling body parts and they're selling this and they're selling that. Yes, right? They go out there and they acquire people, human beings, and they're selling them over there, and they're selling them over there. They make movies about it, right? Who's that one, Get Out? Who was they doing in Get Out? It was trying to get the brother and take his body part, right? Taken, right? Exactly. So now when you look at what the merchants of the earth are doing, they're actually trading slaves. Who are the slaves? Who are the ones that's known as the slaves? Us. And we be wondering, it's like, yo, why every time when Becky goes missing, oh, they send out the cavalry. But when Shaquilla get missing, man, ain't nobody going out. Like, you could barely even get one cop to come knock on the door at the house. What's going on, right? This is what's happening. It's been happening. This is when the Maccabees, fast forward to Revelations. The Lord is telling John the Revelator, or showing John the Revelator, what was going to be happening in our last days, right? This is like that book in Back to the Future. Remember, they was trying to get that book, and that book was telling them all the scores and everything else, and they were going to make money with that book. The Bible's the book. The Bible is that book that foretells you everything that's going to happen in the future before it happens, right? So this is what we're seeing. They are still selling slaves, and they're selling your soul. They're stealing your soul, right? Seducing you with seducing spirits to now have you fall into another god, or follow another god, or follow another philosophy, or or sell your soul by money, by fame, with materialistic things. You sell your soul, and I can trade that to the highest bidder over here. Let's go back. First Maccabees chapter 3, and we at verse 41, and then we're going to read on. So it says again, and the merchants of the country, hearing the fame of them, took silver and gold and very much with servants, and came into the camp to buy the children of Israel for slaves. A power also of Syria and of the land of the Philistines joined themselves unto them. Now, when Judas and his brethren saw the miseries were multiplied, and that the forces did encamp themselves in their borders, for they knew how the king had given commandment to destroy the people and utterly abolish them. They said one to another, let us restore the decayed estate of our people, and let us fight for our people and the sanctuary, right? So they didn't just run and say, hey, well, you know what, we're going to leave here and go somewhere else. The Lord, like we read in Nehemiah, will raise up saviors. He will put the spirit in certain men or women to rise up to do what? Be a governor or defender for the people. He's that one right now, right? Let us repair the decayed estate. Right now, it's not just talking about the temple. It's not talking about the city. Our spirit is decayed because we're in misery after what's going on right now. You got the nations coming around, and imagine that they're trying to come and buy you for a slave before the thing even kicks off. It's like, damn, that's what y'all think? We're just going to lay down, huh? Y'all just going to come in here. They are just like, you seeing them exchanging money on the side, and you like, man, we ain't going out like that. Right? We ain't letting down like that.
Pre-sale.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how they do the pre-sales. It says in somebody say something? Verse 43. Verse 44. It says, there was a congregation gathered together that they might be ready for battle, and that they might pray and ask mercy and compassion. So again, the Most High is our first defense, right? We'd have to pray, fast, right? That's what you're seeing during the times of Purim with Mordecai and Esther. They went and fasted and prayed 3 days, right? No eating, no drinking. They fasted and prayed to the Lord to give them strength, give them the wisdom, and that the Lord would come help and defend us, right? So even in this time of misery, that's what they did. In our time of misery, that's what we do, right? Always keep your mind and eyes with the Lord and Yahweh Shah, which is Jesus Christ in English, but Yahweh Shah and the Most High, and the Lord will then send angels to minister unto you, like the Lord did for Yahweh Shah when he was in his misery, right? Still talk about how Yahweh Shah, right before he was sweating drops of blood. It was like the sweat was like drops of blood coming off. He sent the angel down to Yahweh Shah for the angel could minister and strengthen Yahweh Shah. That was the example. We should do the same thing, right? Verse 45. Now Jerusalem lay void as a wilderness. There was none of her children that went in or out. The sanctuary also was trodden down, and aliens kept the stronghold. The heathen had their habitation in that place, and joy was taken from Jacob, and the pipe with the harp ceased. So this is a good scripture because it talks about how our land or our place was going to be desolate. I think it's in Isaiah, right? It was going to be desolate. Now, when you think of desolate or desolatation, you think that there's nothing there. It's just barren. But now it says here in this verse, now Jerusalem lay void as a wilderness. Void means what? Without. There's nothing there, right? But as you read down, it says, and the aliens kept the stronghold. The heathen had their habitation in that place. So it wasn't just totally barren. We wasn't there, let alone we weren't there in the right spirit. So it was like a wilderness. It was like the Lord's favorite place was desolate, even though the heathen was there. Same thing right now today. Even though the heathen are over there in the land, fighting warring, the Lord looked at that place as being desolate because Israel is not there in their right spirit, right? And that's how we're seeing this here. Reading on, it says in verse 46, wherefore the Israelites assembled themselves together and came to Maspha over against Jerusalem. For in Maspha was the place where they prayed aforetime in Israel. Then they fasted that day and put on sackcloth and casted ashes upon their heads and rent their clothes, right? So now it's the time to regroup, right? Fortify our members, pray to the Most High, get the people in right spirits, and then before we go back out to the battle. It says, and laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen have sought to paint the likeness of their images. Because remember, they're now in our circuit. They're in the holy place. They're in the circuits. They're going throughout the temple. They're seeing our records. They're now taking hold of our records. And what are they doing? They're now taking out our images and putting their images in the book, right? Elder Zaquan, a few days ago, posted a clip in the group chat. And it was a guy holding a Bible from like the 15th century. And now he had a Bible from the 15th century. And as he's flipping the pages of the Bible from the 15th century, he's seeing the images of our people in there. And he's like, look at this. Look at these images. They know colors. Like, he's being facetious. Like, these people don't know colors. How did they draw? Look, there's the color white there, but the faces are all dark. So they knew who the real Israelites were, the real Jews were. But then when these guys came in, when the Greeks came in, they sought to put their images. So that was a vibration that started then. It's not a new thing that we go to Borders and Barnes and Nobles or go on Amazon and order a Bible and then you get Caesar or some other person in the book. And then now our people look at the Bible like, these, you know, we all about pictures, right? It's like the magazine got to have nice pictures in there. So you're looking at these pictures, you're like, man, this ain't for us. That's their book. It's a white man's book, right? So people start to say that narrative. White man's book. You got that all up in here. Well, the verse right here says that the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. Who are these heathen? The Greeks. What do the Greeks look like? The same images that you see in these Bibles now today that they put Caesar up in there, right? They didn't look like the people of the antiquities. They didn't look like the ancient Egyptians who now we are also mistaken for, right? So that's what the original images look like. It says, reading on, verse 49, they brought also the priest's garments and the first fruits, and the tithes, and the Nazarites they stirred up, who had accomplished their days. So now they're getting back into the spirit of what we have been as a nation, right? Bringing the first fruits, like you read about in Leviticus. We just came from the first fruits of the Pentecost during the summertime, right? Now it's talking about bringing the tithes, a tenth of your increase. Those who are now performing vows to the Lord, they're doing these things, whether it's a week or a month or whatever. They're stirring up the spirit of our people to now get back in tune with our own customs and culture. Verse 50, then they cry with a loud voice toward heaven, saying, what shall we do with these, and whither shall we carry them away? For the sanctuary, or thy sanctuary, is trodden down and profane, and thy priests are in heaviness and brought low. And lo, the heathen are assembled together against us to destroy us. What things they imagine against us, thou knowest. How shall we be able to stand against them, except thou, O power, be our help? Then sounded they with trumpets and cried with a loud voice. So this was the prayer that they were saying collectively, right? Each one in their own had that same vibration of a prayer to send to the Most High, right? So that was the preparation to get everything back in order, start keeping the high holy days, and fasting, and doing the tithes and all these things that bring it back in, doing vows. And then after a certain period of time, then they started doing what? It says they sounded the trumpet with a loud voice. Why? Go to Numbers, the 10th chapter. Why did they sound the trumpets? Numbers, the 10th chapter. Numbers chapter 10 and verse 8.
Numbers 10 and 8. And the sons of Aaron, the priests, shall blow with the trumpets, and they shall be to you for an ordinance forever throughout your generations.
So now the sons of Aaron, the Levites, they're supposed to be the one that's going to go out there and blow those trumpets, right? An ordinance forever, right? It says throughout your generations. So as the Levites are still continuing on, those sons that come from out of Aaron's, they're supposed to continue this going on, right?
And if ye go to war in your land against the enemy that oppress you.
So that's what's going on right now with Judas Maccabees and the Israelites then against the Idumeans or the Greeks. We're going to war against an enemy that's oppressing us in the land, right?
Then ye shall blow an alarm with the trumpet, and ye shall be remembered before the Lord your God, and ye shall be saved from your enemies.
Right. So that's why they were doing it, because it was a part of the law. If we're going to go to war in our land and the enemy is coming to oppress you, blow that trumpet like sounding the alarm. The Lord said that that's a token between us and him. When we blow that alarm, the Most High and the angels are hearing that in the heavens. And if you in the right spirit, or we in the right spirit, keeping the laws, the Most High come to help you every time. Right? That's how the Lord is dealing with us. But when you now don't keep the covenant, you don't keep the commandment, right? It becomes a trickle-down effect. Dissension just start happening in your life. Dissension just start happening when you don't even think or focus on the Most High like that. It's not a good thing. We collectively as a nation have these troubles and these perils. So now let's go back. First Maccabees 3, and we have verse 55 now. So 55, it says, after this, Judas ordained captains over the people, even captains over thousands and over hundreds and over 50s and over 10s, right? Where did he get this from? Right down Deuteronomy chapter 1. How is he ordering these things, right? You just think that the Esau's military is the one who came up with these ranks, captains and colonels and majors, and no, it wasn't Esau. It was the Most High who gave us the law. So go to Deuteronomy, the first chapter, and the 15th verse. So first, Deuteronomy, the first chapter, 15th verse, it says, so I took the chief of your tribe, wise men and known, and made them heads over you, captains over thousands, and captains over hundreds, and captains over 50s, and captains over 10s, and officers among your tribes. So this is what Judas is doing, because he's following tradition, he's following the ordinance. That now when you now have an army or you have a lot of people, you start putting different people in positions to now deal with the nation, right? In this instance, it's down with the army. You're going to now be over 50. You're going to be over 100. And then as it begins to now the orders go out, you're going to be the one that's going to deliver that. And they're going to be under your command. You're going to take them over there, and they're going to be under your command. But everything is coming from Judas as the leader or the captain over the whole host, right? So let's go back. First Maccabees 3 and 56 now. It says, but as for such as were building houses, or have betrothed wives, or were planting vineyards, or were fearful, those commanded that they should return, every man to his own house according to the law, right? So again, Judas is putting things back in order, right? We're reading about what he did with the trumpet. We're reading about how he's setting captives over hundreds and 50s and thousands. Now we're seeing he's going throughout the camp, and he's seeing those who just had now built a house, who got a wife, all of them. He's saying, listen, y'all gotta go. Y'all not going with us. I want to go. No, you can't go. You gotta go. You gotta stay. Why I gotta stay? The law said so, right? Read Deuteronomy, the 20th chapter. Let's see what it says in the law. Deuteronomy, the 20th chapter, because it's all about making sure the spirit that's going to go out is in the right spirit. And it's going to tell you, and going to give an understanding as to why. Deuteronomy 20 and verse 5.
Deuteronomy 20 and 5. And the officers shall speak unto the people, saying, what man is there that has built a new house and have not dedicated it? Let him go return to his house, lest he die in the battle, and another man dedicate.
Right. So now it says the officers. We just read about who the officers are. Chief men of the tribes that now need to be set up. They're going to now go through their camp, right? Each one of these men that's captains over whatever, and then start questioning. Yo, who got a house and never dedicated it, right? You got to stay there and build the foundation and do the things for your house. Unless you go die and somebody else go and put a name there, put a landmark there, and you haven't established it yet. So you got to stay there and do that, right? Read on.
And what man is he that planted a vineyard and have not eaten of it? Let him also go and return into his house, lest he die in battle, and another man.
Right, another person eat of the fruit of your labor, right? The Lord is about, and that's why the Lord sometimes give you that analogy about the muzzle the ox, right? He's going out there laboring, let him eat of the fruits of his labor. So now when you go out there and plant a vineyard, at least stay there to see your vineyard come to fruition, and then you eat the fruit, and then everything is cool. So you have that foundation in you. Read on.
7. And what man is there that have betrothed a wife and have not taken her? Let him go and return into his house, lest he die in the battle, and another man take her.
And another man raise up seed to his wife, right? Stay with your wife, build your family. Once you've established that, once you've established your house and your landmark, once you've established the things that's there, then you can go. But right now, you're still in the building phase. Read on.
8. And the officers shall speak further unto the people, and they shall say, what man is there that is fearful and faint-hearted? Let him go and return into his house, lest his brother in his heart faint as well as his heart.
So now this is even more dire to the cause, right? Go out. You got to go and talk to these men. You got to go find out what their mind is at. If they're fearful, if they're questioning, if they're doubting, they can't go. Tell them, you stay here, right? You stay here, you stay back. Nah, but I want to be with y'all, But yeah, brother, I get it. Yeah, because now you go out to the war, and then like we already been reading where sometimes where the men is looking at strength in numbers and they seeing way more men coming, and now you now have this and you're in the trenches. Yo, man, I don't know, man. Yo, brother, listen, this, you know, Judas is a good man and all, but man, listen, we need to go save ourselves, man. Yeah. They said we're on a suicide mission. You telling me that they got elephants and everything, brother? Come on, man. You can't do this, right? Then that brother starts saying, then that seed get planted. Yeah, you're right, you're right. Yo, once they get an order to go over here, yo, we just gonna dip out, right? We're gonna dip out. So now you start seeing men dipping out. You had at least 187. Now you got 112. You're like, yo, wait a minute. That little leaven up the lump. So the law says, lead those men. Anyone that fits this criteria, y'all stay behind. Everyone else who's fit to go, let's roll. Right? So that's what Judas is now implementing here during this time period. So let's go back. First Maccabees 3, verse 57. So it says, so the camp removed and pitched upon the south side of Emmaus. And Judas said, arm yourselves and be valiant men, and see that ye be in readiness against the morning, that ye may fight with these nations that are assembled together against us to destroy us and our sanctuary. For it's better for us to die in battle than to behold the calamities of our people and our sanctuary. Nevertheless, as the will of God is in heaven, so let him do. So if we die, like they got a book or something like that, if I perish, I perish. They take that line from Esther, from the book of Esther when she was going to go and see the king. If I perish, I perish. Right? So that's kind of the creed here. Listen, let's just go all out, man. If we die, we die. If that be the Most High's will, we're going to still go out and honor. I think you mentioned that movie 300. I think if I remember correctly, in the movie 300, I think his wife was one of those who kind of understood that vibration, that spirit, right? To say, listen, my husband is going to go out there and fight, right? Matter of fact, go out there and fight valiantly. You know, sometimes when you are a wife, you know, is kind of reluctant to want to see her man go out there because what? The fear of death, because he might not come back, right? So it's like, nah, you sure? Don't go. We love you. What about your son, your boy? You might not come. She wasn't like that in the movie, right? Because he's just not fighting for his own family. He's fighting for all the families, right? You gotta have soldiers, right? Almost every people, country, or nation has a military. Why? To defend themselves against opposition. We had the same thing, right? To fight and defend ourselves against opposition. So this is what now Judas is fortifying the men to arm themselves to be ready for whatever, right? But it takes preparation. It just doesn't happen like in a minute. Judas had to be constantly making sure that the men was in the right frame of mind, because you know Satan is always at work to cast doubt and put that doubt into your mind. So let's read on. First Maccabees, the 4th chapter, 1st verse. Then took Gorgias 5,000 footmen and 1,000 of the best horsemen and removed out of the camp by night. So we already read. Don't matter how many horses you got. Don't matter how much might and power you think you have. It's all of the Most High, right? But the nations don't know this. So when we look at these numbers, it sounds like a lot. 5,000 footmen, 1,000 horsemen. Man, we don't have these numbers, but we got the Most High. Verse 2, to the end he might rush in upon them, upon the camp of the Jews, and smite them suddenly. And the men of the fortress were his guides. So his intention was to catch us off guard, right? And then he had spies that was in the fortress or the towers to kind of give them guidance as to where they need to go and take or capture Judas and the men. Verse 3, now when Judas heard thereof, he himself removed, and the valiant men with him, that he might smite the king's army, which was Adamias. So when he figured it out and heard that, listen, these guys are trying to do a sneak attack, and these guys is kind of showing them where y'all at, peeped it, and he bounced and said, okay, I'm going to go with on the other area where the king's men is Adamias and deal with them there. It says, while as yet the forces were dispersed from the camp, in the mean season came Gorgias by night into the camp of Judas. And when he found no man there, he sought them in the mountains. For said he, these fellows flee from us. So when Judas heard what was going to happen, he bounced. Time went on. Here comes Gorgias in the mean season. What's the mean season?
Winter.
The winter, right? We're in the mean season where it's bitter cold, or you may actually have snow or certain things on the ground. Remember, this is in the 9th month. We're in, or we just came out of the 9th month, right? The beginning of this feast was in the 9th month, 25th day, right? In the mean season, in the winter season. So that's what was going on right here. They came, found no one there, and realized that these guys, or they figured that they ran from them. But it was a strategic tactic for Judas to go somewhere else to go deal with those men, because all of them were right here. It says, verse 6, but as soon as it was day, Judas showed himself in the plain with 3,000 men, who nevertheless had neither armor nor swords to their mind, right? So now as the day shone, and they weren't there, but they put themselves in the plain and made themselves available to be seen, they had 3,000. Now the other men had 5, they had 6,000. So they outnumbered 2 to 1, but doesn't matter, right? They're ready to go engage with the opposition. But it says here that they had neither armor nor swords to their minds. You remember what this is talking about? That Judas and his men neither had swords or armor to their minds. Who remembers?
They had their mind focused on God. He was going to give them the victory.
Exactly.
They weren't worried about how many swords they had. They had swords, but they weren't worried about how many swords they had.
Right. They didn't put their strength or their trust in their weapons. That's like somebody, going to a fight and you got a gun in your waist with 9 in a clip, and you saying, listen, that's what's going on. Listen, like what? You know how people come to they lift up their shirt. See what I got? Right? Now they put their trust in the weapon, right? Thinking the weapon is going to get them the victory. Now, all of a sudden, you pull it out, block it, right? And they say, listen, what? And you say, and show it. And the damn gun jam. Now what happens? All that power, all that might they had just goes away because they put their trust in that. And when that don't work, what you got? Nothing. So Judas and the men didn't put their trust in their weapons. They put their trust in the Most High. Go to 2 Maccabees 8. 2 Maccabees chapter 8 and verse 16. Second Maccabees chapter 8 and verse 16. It says, so Maccabees called his men together unto the number of 6,000 and exhorted them not to be stricken with terror of the enemy, nor to fear the great multitude of the heathen who came wrongfully against them, but to fight manfully and to set before their eyes the injury that they had unjustly done to the holy place and the cruel handling of the city, whereof they made a mockery, and also the taking away of the government of their forefathers, right? So arm yourself, get yourselves together, get your minds right. Look what they did to us, man. Look at all that they've done to us, right? Forget what they got. Look what they did and what they're looking to try to do. Now here's the verse, verse 18. For they, said he, trust in their weapons and boldness, but our confidence is in the Almighty God, who at a beck can cast down both them that come against us and also all the world, right? So now that's what we put our trust in, the Most High, who at a beck can destroy every one of them like he did during the time of Sennacherib. send an angel down to destroy their whole host. Right? Thousands of them died during that one night. So the Lord could do the same for us. And that's what he has to always do. When you read the Maccabees, Judas and John, they had to remind them of what our forefathers went through and how the Lord aided them to get the victory. All right, so let's go back. Verse 6 again, it says, but as soon as it was day, back in 1 Maccabees 4 and 6, as soon as it was day, Judas showed himself in the plain with 3,000 men, who nevertheless had neither armor nor swords to their minds. And they saw the camp of the heathen, that it was strong and well harnessed, and compassed round about with the horsemen, and these were expert of war. Then said Judas to the men that were with him, fear ye not their multitude, neither be ye afraid of their assault. Remember how our fathers were delivered in the Red Sea, when Pharaoh pursued them with an army. Right? So the Lord split the Red Sea, stopped the waters of the Red Sea to allow us safe passage, and then close it back up to destroy the army. Miracles happen when the Most High is now coming to deliver his people. A miracle is going to happen again for us in these last days, right? Miracles are going to happen again for us in these last days. And not only will they happen, you have to believe that the Lord is going to deliver that to you. You have to believe that the Most High is going to be able to come in and intervene when you are in the strait, right? Power goes out, right? Power goes out, no electricity, no way of getting food. How you going to eat? Most High fed Elijah, no. Most High fed certain people to the family. Will the Most High feed me? Or are you going to rely on Esau? Do you think I got to go out there and send Morse code up to Esau so he can come and deliver me? No. You got to pray to the Most High that the Lord is going to do for you in that time, right? Your mind has to be trained that way. And that's why time and time again, he's always reminding them of the Most High. Nothing else. He ain't reminding them of Mattathias. He's reminding them of the Most High what he did for Mattathias or David or any of his other great men and women. Right? That's the key. So now it says in verse 10, now therefore let us cry unto heaven, if peradventure the Lord will have mercy upon us, and remember the covenant of our fathers, and destroy this host before our face this day, that so all the heathen may know that there is one who delivereth and saveth Israel. Right? Remember, the Lord is our God, possessive. He's not the God of everyone. So when these narratives or these things are being mentioned in the scriptures, and it now shows that the Lord has a nation that he's delivering and not the other nations, it makes sense why sometimes these things want to be removed or covered up. Right? They want to eliminate or cover up these things and break the spirit of how the Lord only deals with one nation. They want to add in something else. But it says here, he delivereth and saveth Israel. Verse 12. Then the strangers lifted up their eyes and saw them coming over against them. Wherefore they went out of the camp to battle, but they that were with Judas sounded their trumpets. Again, there it is. Numbers, the 10th chapter, 8 verse on down, right? As soon as they're about to go out to battle, these jokers are probably coming in like, yo, they out there blowing horns. What are they doing? They don't know. The sound of the alarm, the angels is coming, right? Exactly. They fell. You read later on in Maccabees, you see that when it goes deeper in 2nd Maccabees into Judas, and how the angels came and physically defended Judas, lifted him up and protected him. The wings covered him, and then the other angels out there fighting. Imagine you go out to war, you've been fighting wars and everything, and now you don't blow a horn, and all of a sudden, the way in which the Most High is about to come help you right now, Michael, go send one of those other angels, go send such and such down there to go help out Judas, right? And go send the other one out there too. And they come down, and they come right near Judas, and you looking like, and they lift you up and they cover you up with their wings. And while you're being covered, it says it in Maccabees, when you read the 2nd Maccabees, when you're protected, the other one is going out there fighting on your behalf. when I read that, I'm like, that man, imagine when you know when the Lord does that for you, imagine what mind state you in after that, right? You're gonna be like, yo, man, I'm one of them ones. I'm one of those ones. For the Lord to do that. But at the same time, like what happened with Paul, Paul said that the Most High had to still send the spirit of Satan to buffet me, right? Sometimes you still got to be brought down to not make you become high-minded, because we know with the scriptures, with this power, the Lord tells us that we can become high-minded. You can be puffed up. You can make yourself think you're more than what you are. We are still just a vessel to the Lord. The Lord can remove you out, you as great as you are, then bring somebody else in, and then that becomes our new deliverer. Exactly, like King Saul and King David. So now reading on, we have verse 14. So they joined battle, and the heathen, being discomfited, fled into the plain. Howbeit, all the hindmost of them were slain with the sword, for they pursued them unto Gazara, unto the plains of Idumea and Azotus and Jamia, so that they were slain of them about 3,000 men, right? So initially it was like 3,000 got slain. They said they fled and they were slaying the hindmost, those who they wasn't the fastest, right? They didn't run. They were not at the beginning of everyone that was running. You know, they always make that saying, I ain't gotta be the fastest, I just gotta be faster than you. Right? So these jokers is running and fleeing, and these men is catching them, slicing and dicing and grabbing them and doing all kind of things to them. 3,000 fell, and they going into different places, and they still chasing them. Idumea, Azotus, Jamia. Yo, don't follow me. Don't get away from me. Running over here. Somebody's still pursuing you. Somebody gonna pursue him, and they're gonna get as much as they can. Verse 16. This done, Judas returned again with his host from pursuing them, and said unto the people, be not greedy of the spoils, inasmuch as there is a battle before us. So don't focus on the gold, the silver, or the victuals, the things that's there, and let your guard down, because we still have the heathen running about. They can regroup real quick and come back, right? Keep your mind ready. We still got the battle before us. It's not done yet, right? It says in verse 18, and Gorgias and his hosts are here by us in the mountain, but stand ye now against our enemies and overcome them, and after this ye may boldly take the spoils. So they're running, but some of them is over here, some of them is over there. They can come down back at any time. Let's get this done, and then y'all can have a party or do whatever you need to do. Verse 20. Verse 19, it says, as Judas was yet speaking these words, there appeared a part of them looking out of the mountain, who, when they perceived that the Jews had put their host to flight and were burning the tents, for the smoke that was seen declared what was done, when they therefore perceived these things, they were so afraid, and seeing also the host of Judas in the plain, ready to fight, they fled everyone into the land of strangers, right? So now those who had now strategically had themselves in the mountains, after the rest have been already slain and fled, when they looked and see what was going on, like, damn, everybody done bounced. They burned up their tents. Judas and them still out there manfully ready to fight. This ain't something that we want to do right now. So what we're going to do, we're going to bounce, right? And that's what they did. They fled, right? Seeing the manliness of Judas and the Israelites that was with him. It says, verse 23, then Judas returned to spoil the tents, where they got much gold and silver and blue silk and purple of the sea and great riches, right? Blue silk and purple of the sea are very expensive materials, like the dye and then the actual silk for the clothing and materials, right? So that's what they had with them at that time in their possession. We got all that, and the silver and the gold and some other things, right? It says, and great riches. Verse 24. After this, they went home and sung a song of thanksgiving and praised the Lord in heaven, because it is good, because his mercy endure forever. So the Most High was merciful to us at that time to allow us to defeat the enemy. So what did we do? we sang a song of thanksgiving, right? So thanksgiving in this context, as you read it, says, hey, we've been able to deliver or overcome our enemy or the opposition. Someone has been delivered into our hands. Same thing that happened with our northern tribe brothers, right? On the flip side, when they were able to defeat Gad and Reuben and the rest of those of the northern tribes that was in this area, this region, they had what? A thanksgiving, because the land and the people were delivered into their hands. So they did this in honor of their false gods. Here we did it in honor of the merciful, most high living power, right? That's the difference. So it can't be that everybody is. You think at this time, Gorgeous and them would be saying, you know what? The Israelites is having a good old time. They're singing songs of Thanksgiving. 2 years from now, we're going to join in with them and sing along with them and celebrate with them after they just killed 3,000 of our men. Hell no, they ain't doing that, right? But this is what we've been, our souls have been sold to believe a lie, and that's what we do, right? Reading on, it says in verse, where did I leave off? 26, water. Well, 25. It says, thus Israel had a great deliverance that day. Now all the strangers who had escaped came and told Osias what had happened. But Gorgeous and these men were supposed to be set up to go and defeat the Israelites. So now they done ran. Gorgeous made it out. Comes back to Osias. You could tell right off the rip. What happened? What happened? What's going on? Right? You know, when you come through, you bust the doors open, you all the breath, shirt all ripped, right? Things ain't looking good. Now you got to get that bad report. It says, who, verse 27, when he had heard thereof, was confounded and discouraged, because neither such things as he would were done unto Israel, nor such things as the king commanded him would come to pass. So he was confused. He was like, yo, I thought this was a light thing. Like this little country, like they're not that big. They're not that surplus of people. Like how you couldn't deal with them? Yo, this don't make no sense, man. These guys is beating everybody. What the heck is going on? So we can't come with a small army no more. We can't come with a light troop. We got to come with the masses to take these people out, right? It says in verse 28, it says, the next year, therefore, following Osias gathered together 70,000 choice men of foot and 5,000 horsemen, that he might subdue them. So now it's 300,000. Gorgeous came with how many? 5,000 footmen. Now he got about 60,000 footmen. He had 1,000 horsemen. Now he got 5,000 horsemen. Right? He had to try to level up. Right? He had to level up for Judas. Imagine that. And Judas only had what? 3,000. Right? Man. Verse 29. So they came into Idumea and pitched their tents at Bethsarah in Judea, and Judas met them with 10,000 men. So now Judas leveled up. As more and more battles are being won, more and more people are joining themselves with Judas to go fight the good fight. Verse 30, when he saw that mighty army, he prayed and said, blessed art thou, O Savior of Israel, who didst quell the violence of the mighty men by the hand of thy servant David, and gavest the host of strangers into the hands of Jonathan, the son of Saul, and his armor bearer. Shut up this army in the hand of thy people Israel, and let them be confounded in their power and horsemen. So again, like tradition, Judas is also going back to former times. The Lord delivered righteous men in the times of their wars or the times of their fights, right? See if you could do the same thing with me, Most High, like you did with David and Jonathan, how you delivered the enemy into their hand. It says in verse 32, Make them to be of no courage, and cause the boldness of their strength to fall away, and let them quake at their destruction. Cast them down with the sword of them that love thee, and let all those that know thy name praise thee with thanksgiving. So he wants them, the Most High, to remove their strength. Right? Go to Deuteronomy chapter 2. Deuteronomy chapter 2. And 25.
Deuteronomy 2 and 25. This day will I begin to put the dread of thee and the fear of thee upon the nations that are under the whole heaven, who shall hear the report of thee, and shall tremble and be in anguish because of thee.
Right. The Lord said this day he can put that spirit in the other nations. Right? We're all in, just like how the harlot mentioned in Joshua, the 2nd chapter. We heard what your Lord did with those Amorites and how he destroyed them and what he did at the Red Sea. And when they got that report, they melted. Their spirit melted. They didn't want no parts of y'all. But the Most High now can put that spirit of doubt and fear in the other nations where they don't even want to come out and fight against you. Right? That's what he's saying that he can do here, even during the time of Moses. So this is what Judas Maccabees is asking, if the Lord can put that in them where they could be of no courage, because they gravely outnumbered, right? But let at least half of them be fearful, just based on our reputation that they don't even want to come fight. So let's go back. So we have 1 Maccabees 4 and 34. It says, so they joined battle, and there was slain of the host of Lysias about 5,000 men. Even before them were they slain. So of the 60 and 5,000 got slain once they joined the battle, right? So right off the rip, Judas and them is gaining the upper hand. And you know, you start checking the temperature, you start seeing what's going on, like, all right, 400, 700, 1,300, 2,700, 3,500. Damn, we losing men left and right. What the heck is going on? After 5,000 undied, what's the plan now? It says, now when Lysias saw his army put to fight and the manliness of Judas' soldiers and how they were ready to either live or die valiantly, he went into Antiochia and gathered together a company of strangers, and having made his army greater than it was, he pursued to come again into Judea. So now after this, that the 5,000, he regrouped real quick. He said, yo, this guy's no joke, man. And I see why Gorgeous and them came back. I see why he's been winning all these wars. These guys don't give a damn. They ready to die. Amen ain't like that, man. Amen is looking and they running away after they seeing them take down a few of them. Damn, this is a different breed right now. How do we fight against somebody who's not afraid to die? Right? Who's gonna go all out? I'm in there ready to go all out. I'm paying them to go fight. Right? We just giving them some money here and there. They're like, man, this money ain't worth all that, man. We out.
I said, some people think like Ishmael now, like he's so
yep.
white. Ishmael is like, look, let me even blow himself up just to even
exactly
forget them back or something like that.
Exactly.
Like, Pearl Harbor, those planes were coming down, even kamikaze, they were coming down and crashing right into the, into the ship. Like, they wouldn't commit suicide, crash into that ship.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can't fight people like that.
when it's not really your war, or you're not really vested like they vested, yeah, you already at a losing you're in a losing stance then. Because yeah, right. It's gonna be hard. So he had to go regroup and go get more strangers to come back and fight. So that means they left and had to go get strangers to try to come back later on and fight against Judas, right? It says in verse 36, then said Judas unto his brethren, behold, our enemies are discomfited. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary, right? So while they're trying to figure out what they're doing, and they discomfited. Now we got a little bit of time to go and reclaim the temple and rededicate the altar to the Lord. Remember, Judas and them was Levites. So they're concerned and understanding the value and the importance of what the temple represented. So they said, we can go now and cleanse and get all that polluted, defiled stuff that they put up in there out of there so that we can get back to the sacrifice. Because we read in the last chapter that they was doing the first fruits, that they was doing the tithes, that the Nazarites started doing things again. So they had already started getting back in order. Now all we had to do is do what? Start getting the temple so that we can start doing these sacrifices and the offerings, right? So it says, upon this, all the hosts assembled themselves together and went up into the Mount Sion. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate and the altar profaned and the gates burned up and shrubs growing in the courts as in a forest or in one of the mountains, and the priest's chambers pulled down, right? So now when things we're there and we're taking care of things, we tended to all of this stuff, right? But we hadn't been there as a priesthood, right, to now tend to the affairs. The doggone heathen's been ransacking, running it, tearing things. You know, when somebody comes to a place or a house or somebody and it ain't theirs, they don't care for nothing, right? They're just going through there, just doing stuff. You're like, yo, hold on, put that down. What are you doing? Get away from there. No, don't touch that. Don't touch that. They going in there just desecrating, defiling everything, right? So now we come in and after the fact and we look at it saying like, damn, man, this is sorrowful. It almost pains me. I feel like crying right now to see this, because this is our conduit to now giving the offerings and the sacrifice to the Lord. Look what it looked like, right? It says, verse 40, so like verse 39, then rent their clothes and made great lamentation and cast ashes upon their heads and fell down flat to the ground upon their faces and blew an alarm with the trumpets and cried toward heaven, right? Cried toward heaven to ask for forgiveness and mercy from the Lord for allowing this right here to transpire, to take place. Sorrowful thing. We've gone through many emotions, mixed emotions throughout the years with the temple, right? From the destruction of the 586 from the Babylonian times when the Esau was there and said, raise it. And then you had the men come back during the times of the Persians to come help rebuild it. Even then, you had men that were sorrowful of seeing the current state of the temple. Remember what it was before, and even after we built it, it was mixed emotion. So now when you come and you look at this, it's like that. I remember how things was in its heyday, and now look at it, man. Damn, they did a job on us right there with this. So they had to first go ask for forgiveness for the Most High, right, and then take action. Verse 41. Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had cleansed the sanctuary. So it wasn't totally desolate. You still had men that was arming or supposed to be taking care of certain portions within the city. We read in the last chapter how certain men wanted to go get a name, and they left men in these towers and these fortresses while they went and got a name. Now these men are still all there. Judas saying, go take care of these guys, man. While we go cleanse this, go get these guys up out of here. Get those guys up out of here, right? We're going to try to remove all types of heathens from within the holy places or the circuits around the city. Verse 41. So like verse 42. So we chose priests of blameless conversation, such as has pleasure in the law, who cleanse the sanctuary and bear out the defiled stones into an unclean place, right? So now you had priests who was Levites, because the Levitical priesthood, right? You had the sons of Aaron who had that order. But every Levite, every priest ain't on the up and up. As we see in the Maccabees with Menelaus and Jason, these guys was Levites, but they was wicked, right? So just because your name is, you know, you're of the tribe of Levi, or just because you say, hey, I'm of that line of Aaron, nah. You got to be a man of blameless report, right? Nobody can go and say, yo, that brother right there, yo, man, he been all kind of stuff, man. Like, I be hearing that he be dealing with this people over here. He be taking bribes. He be doing all kind of stuff, right? You don't want to have that guy. when you now about to rededicate the temple, now come up in there. Nah, that's unclean hands. Can't have that. So you got to go and find and make sure the people, the person that's going to now come and do this job is removed from all wickedness. Like no one can. Now we know that person probably got a little bit of sin, but nah, he not like with Samuel's sons. When Samuel's sons was coming up the ranks, they was taking bribes and doing all kind of stuff, and the people came and complained. Yo, Samuel, your sons, man, they wilding out, right? We didn't want to have that type of action going on when we're dealing with this here. So it had to be a blameless conversation and had pleasure in the law. They can quote different things and they understand, now you can't do this because in Exodus, it says this. It also says in Deuteronomy. This is how we get to handle the situation. Exactly. Right? Mm-hmm. Verse 43. It says, who cleanse the sanctuary and bear out the vile stones into an unclean place. When they had consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profane, they thought it best to put it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen had defiled it. Wherefore they pulled it down and laid up the stones in the mountain of the temple in a convenient place, until there should come a prophet to show what should be done with them. So because these stones, this altar was polluted. Why was it polluted? Because you had heathens in there, number one, right? Because no heathen, no one outside of the Levites is supposed to be in the temple, in the sanctuary, pertaining to any of these things. Then they started offering unclean animals on the altar, which even made it more of a pollution and defile, right? You read in Leviticus, it talks about when you got carcasses or dead bodies of unclean animals that touch something, that's all unclean. It's unclean, right? So that's what was going on here. So they had to say, you know what? Nah, we can't leave this like this, man. This whole altar, it got to go. The huge stones, right? The stones that were set up in the temple that the law tells us to bring, that's all doggone defiled, man. Let's get this and put this somewhere far away. Put it in a mountain, wherever, and just leave it there. It was brought in for a holy purpose, but now it's defiled. And it was, I don't know, what should we do with it? Should we destroy it? We just get rid of it? I don't know. Nobody knows right now. So they probably had a little council and nobody had the right answer. So they said, we're going to leave it right there until a prophet comes later on and the prophet gives us guidance on what to do. Maybe the Lord will give that prophet wisdom and understanding on how to deal with that. But for right now, we're taking it out and we're going to bring in clean stone and make a new altar. Gabar, and then
and we say that was the abomination of desolation.
Exactly, right? Good point. Go to Daniel. Good thing you brought that up. Go to Daniel, the 11th chapter. Go to Daniel's 11th chapter to kind of tie in what we're reading here, because Daniel prophesied about the Persians and the Medes, and then the Greek Empire coming in later on and taking down the Greek Empire. And then it goes into what would happen during the Greek Empire. So go to Daniel chapter 11. And I'm going to start at verse 31. Daniel's 11 and 31. Everybody got it? So I'm reading here on 11. It starts, the prophecies start back in Daniel's the 8th chapter. And the Lord gives Daniel the vision of the ram and the he-goat, right? And it starts going into certain things. Matter of fact, hold this in 11. Jump back to Daniel's the 8th chapter. Daniel's 8. And I'm going to start at 3. Daniel's 8 and 3. It says, then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns, and the two horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last, right? So this is now symbolically going into the Persians and the Medes Empire, right? Two different nations ruling together in one empire, right? The second horn that rose up was the Persians, right? The Medes was there first, but the Persians grew up and took superiority over that empire. How do we know that the ram is talking about the Persians? We're going to get it soon. Then, as you go on down, where is it? I'm going to jump to the goat. Verse 5. It says, and as I was considering, behold, matter of fact, I'm just going to read verse 4. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great, meaning he went and conquered valiantly. When north, west, south, everywhere he went and conquered, and no one could stop him. Verse 5, and as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. So this goat now comes from the west. And when you look at where this goat came from, as far as for their beginnings, coming from Macedonia, they're coming from the west to come and conquer the Persians and the Medes, right? And it says that it's like his foot didn't touch the earth, symbolic of how fast he came to conquer, right? He didn't rest. He came swiftly to come and conquer. This he-goat is talking about the Greeks, right? The Greeks were the ones that was going to rise up to power. Notable one, as we read in Maccabees, the first chapter, Alexander is the one that came out of the Greeks to go and rule. Now, again, this is all parable going into what was going to happen. Jump down to verse 20, right? This is the answer. The Lord sometimes will give the answer. It says, the ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia, right? Then it says, and the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. So the first king of the Greeks was Alexander. Who did Alexander conquer? The Persians and the Medes. So Daniel saw all this in the Babylonian captivity, right? Way before all these events took place, right? So now you're getting the understanding here as to what was going to transpire with them in that time. Now, there's parts of this that also go into what was happening, but I'm going to go to the one in the 11th chapter. Now jump to the 11th chapter and the 31st verse, right? So now we're jumping back into ancient prophecies from the time that the Maccabees and Judas and them are going what they're going through. So now Daniel chapter 11, verse 31, it says, and arms shall stand up, and arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate, right? So that's what they did. This is talking about the Greeks. They're going to come into the sanctuary and destroy the place, pollute the place, set up their altar and take away the daily sacrifice that the Lord gave the Levites, and set up their own sacrifice and start sacrificing pigs and mice and all kind of abominable things in the circle of the holy places on the altar. It says in verse 32, and such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries, right? So the Greeks corrupted some of our people into now doing what? Making themselves uncircumcised by not keeping the covenant anymore, to go and follow what they're following. You can get a position. Wasn't Menelaus wanting to gain position? So he did what? He catered to the king. Listen, we'll do what you want. Listen, man. And he went out there and started murdering his own people by these flatteries. It says, but the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits. That's what we're reading about. Mattathias and his sons, they know the Most High. What does it mean to know the Most High? To keep his laws, statutes, and commandments, right? So they're going to do what? Exploits, valiant acts, going out there fighting these wars that Judas is fighting right now. These are the exploits. Mattathias fought. Jonathan's going to fight. Simon's going to fight. They know the Most High. It says in verse 33, and they that understand among the people shall instruct many, yet they shall fall by the sword and by flame, by captivity and by spoil many days. So even though, because we know the storyline, even though you're going to have these men that are going to do these valiant acts, these exploits, they're still going to die. Judas died in the war. Jonathan died, right? These are the consequences. We understand that they stood up and got them a name, but they still died. This was not the time of the salvation. This was not the time of redemption, but the Lord still raised up for a moment someone who was going to come help us during that time. It says 34. Now, when they shall fall, they shall be hoping with a little help, or helped with a little help. But many shall cleave to them with flatteries, right? So you're going to have these men that's going to rise up and help the nation out, but a lot of our people are going to do what? Side with the Greeks, right? They're going to go and want to follow their ways, even in the midst of all of this, to the point that they're still constantly fighting to try to rid wickedness from within the nation. It says in 35, and some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them and to purge and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. So some of our people, like Judas and them, guess what's going to happen? They're going to die. And now we're going to see, let me see what else everybody else going to do. Let me see what the other men going to do. Because Judas got taken down, or Jonathan got taken down, well, that's it? You're going to give up? No, it's to prove the rest of us, to purge out and weed out those who ain't going to, who's not written in the book of life to make it, right? Even though he stood up and said, you know what, maybe it's my time. Maybe it's my time. That's what Judas said. That's what Jonathan said. Well, hold on, my brother fought, my daddy fought, or am I? Why should I not put my life on the line? They did. I'm going to do the same thing. That's an example. You're seeing Jonathan, as we read later on, he's going to do that. So that's what it's saying here, to try them and to purge, right? There's a great purge that got to happen within Israel, within all the camps, within all the places that we at. You got to get purged to see who's real and who's not. That's why we read another one. These men wanted to get them a name. They was not of the seed. They wasn't real. So they had to fall, right? That's what the Lord is doing right now. So all these things is set up and planned out by the Most High for the time appointed to get us to the end. All this has now happened so the Lord can purge us. From the time when we came out of Egypt through the Red Sea in the wilderness, we was purged. When we got into the Holy Land, we was in the wilderness, we was purged. When we was going to get into the Holy Land, we was purged. The Lord is always purging out and testing us to see who's going to stand for him. And this is the storyline, right? I think it's in 2 Maccabees where it cautions us to not, lose faith. I'm summarizing, not lose faith when we're seeing the atrocities that's happening to us as a nation. To be like, damn, this is our God. Like if this is happening, like, why should I even bother? Like, why should I even put forth a good effort to go and keep these commandments? If I'm seeing Judas die, I'm seeing Jonathan die. Look how the disciples died, right? They died some atrocious deaths. Like, why would I even bother? Yeah, you're the fearful one. You stay back. This ain't for you, right? We need the ones who are going to put their lives on the line, the front line. That's key, right? So now let's go back. I'll stop there. But again, we can go through Daniel at another time, a little bit more in depth. Some good prophecies there. So we're back at 1 Maccabees chapter 4, and we at verse 47 now. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 38. And I will purge out from among you the rebels and them that transgress against me. I will bring them forth out of the country where they are sojourned, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel, and ye shall know that I am the Lord.
Good.
So,
yep. They can't come into the land. All right. Can't make it to the Holy Land. They got to get purged out. The spirit ain't right. So reading on verse chapter 4, first Maccabees, and we have verse 47. It says, then they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar according to the former, right? All right, hold on. So now they took whole stones according to the law. So you read in Deuteronomy chapter 27. Deuteronomy chapter 27. 27. My, I got Exodus. He said, I got Exodus. He talking 27. Right. Deuteronomy chapter 27. It says in verse 5. It says, and there shalt thou build an altar unto the Lord thy God, an altar of stone. Thou shalt not lift up any iron tool upon them, right? So when you get an altar and you bring it in the stones, it's a lot. They had to be whole stones, not hewn, not chiseled, right? You did something, no, the Lord don't want any of those types of stones. It had to be whole stones, right? It also says that in Exodus chapter 25. Exodus chapter 25. Good. You said
the end of the Ten Commandments.
Oh, I'm in Exodus 20 and 25. I'm in Exodus 25. Bugging. So Exodus 20 and verse 25, it says, and if thou wilt make me an altar of stone, thou shalt not build it out of hewn stone. But if thou lift up thy tool upon it, thou hast polluted it, right? So it can't be hewn, meaning taken out and carved up, like how they take diamonds and they chisel it and they cut it up to make it like this perfect, nice stone. No, the Lord said you can't do that with the stone that's going to go into the altar. It had to be a whole stone as you found it, right? That's what the Lord. So when they said they did this according to the law, that's what they now had to do. You couldn't go and say, I want to make this stone perfect. The way I want it to sit in there, I got to cut this part. No, you can't do that. Now you're being over righteous because that's not what the law asked for.
Yeah, since Leviticus 11 chapter 11 verse 35, and everything whereupon any part of their carcass falleth shall be unclean, whether it be oven or range for pots, they shall be broken down, for they are unclean and shall be unclean unto you. So that's why when they say they pull on all unclean, pull on the whole thing, right? Get used to.
Correct, right? Because it was all polluted from the offering and the sacrifice that they had done. So let's go back. First Maccabees 4:48. It says, and made up the sanctuary and the thing that were there were within the temple and hollowed the courts. They made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlestick and the altar of burnt offerings and of incense and the table, right? So everything that was in the sanctuary, the holy vessels, the menorah, the table itself, they had to now go and get new things to bring in there because they had polluted the whole thing, right? Now we bring this out because one of the key things here is talks about the candlestick. And the candlestick now has also been polluted even to this day by what Esau and them put up as what's supposed to be the candlestick that happened during the times of the rededication of the altar, right? Because the storyline goes that when they were repairing the altar, rededicating it, they only had enough oil to light one day. And now the oil continued on for 8 days. So they now made a new candlestick with 8 legs or 8 branches from coming out of the stick. right? To the point that it'll look something like this. If I could bring it up. Right. So they'll have something like this, right? You'll have a menorah with 4 and 4, and they'll say what's in the middle is like the slave lamp. But now you'll have 4 on one side, 4 on another. Now, they're doing everything in the scriptures, as we're reading here, as according to the law. So let's see what the law says. Go to Exodus 25. Exodus, the 25th chapter. Exodus 25 and 31. So Exodus 25 and 31, it says, and thou shalt make a candlestick of pure gold, of beaten work shall the candlestick be made. His shaft and his branches, his bowls, his knops, and his flowers shall be of the same. So the shaft is going down the middle, and the branches are what's going to come out on the sides. It says, and 6 branches shall come out of the sides of it. 3 branches of the candlestick out of the one side, and 3 branches of the candlestick out of the other side. So if the law is saying 3 on one and 3 on another, how is Esau now thinking and saying that, oh, from the time of this period, because of the miracle that happened, we now have a new menorah. We have a new candlestick, right? The candlestick, as described, is supposed to look like that, right? That's the original candlestick. That's what came out of the law, right? Now, this happened during the times of the Greeks. Now, we can call a lie based on archaeology, because when the Greeks fell, they fell to whom? The Romans, right? So the Romans came and took over. So then at the times of what Christ speaks about in the book of Luke, the 21st chapter, he lets us know that the armies is going to be coming through Jerusalem. Y'all need to flee. Y'all need to bounce. They coming to destroy, right? And when they came in, they went into the temple, just like the Greeks did and other people did as well, and they pillaged. So when they came in and took the holy vessels out, they made a memorial of it, right? And this is found right now over there in Rome. So they have this on the Ark of Titus sitting there in Rome. And what they show here is that they took a candlestick with 3 and 3, like the law says. So where did this come from? Right? Where did that come from? It's a lie. So be careful, Israel, especially for the new brothers and sisters, right? Who want to get, in tune with the culture. You're going out, you're buying different things for your house, and you're buying clothes and different things. It should not look like that. It should not have 4 branches on one side and 4 on another. It has to have 3 like that, right? I had an aunt of mine just a little while ago looked to go buy me something, and she bought that menorah. And it was like, nah, you can't do that. Like my wife and her cousin, they knew, like, nah, you got the wrong one. She's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Okay, now you know, according to the law, right? So regardless of the oil burned for 8 days, 4 days, 5 days, 15, whatever that is, the menorah is the menorah. The candlestick is the candlestick. Thus saith the Lord. So they wouldn't change or alter what is in the scriptures. And Esau themselves made a memorial of it by showing us what they had taken out of the temple by what's there in Rome at the Ark of Titus.
It's pretty big, though.
It is.
See, them guys carrying is like big.
Yeah.
That was the same one that was inside the temple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that thing's huge.
So now you would say to yourself, somewhere, right? The way somewhere, it's locked up. It's in some vault. It's in the Vatican or somewhere, right? They're going behind closed doors, right? They're doing their prayers and their things, thinking that they're gonna get, some type of power or some type of, gift or whatever because they have this thing, right? But just like they did here, they said, hey, man, we're going to get another menorah. We're going to go get some gold and make another menorah or candlestick of beaten work. like it says in Exodus 25.
Because their hands touched it.
Man. All right, so let's continue on. Almost finished. We have verse 51 now. So like yeah, 51. Furthermore, they set the loaves upon the table and spread out the veils and finished all the works that they had begun to make. Now on the 5 and 20th day of the 9th month, which is called the month Caslu, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning. So 3 years from the time that the altar was polluted or defiled to the same day was when this event now transpired. You can link this up with 2 Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 54 and 59. So 2 Maccabees chapter 2. Shalak, chapter 1, not 2, chapter 1. First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 54. First Maccabees 1 and 54. Salak. It says, now the 15th day of the month Caslu in the 145th year. Right? We just read the 48th year. This is the 5th year. They set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side. Verse 59. Now the 5 and 20th day of the month, they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of God. What day? 5 and 20, the 5 and 20th day, right? So now when we go back to 1 Maccabees 4 and 52, it says, now on the 5 and 20th day of the 9th month, which is called the month Caslu, in the 148th year, they rose up for time in the morning. So that's exactly 3 years later that Judas and the brothers are able to go and re-cleanse and rededicate the altar. Verse 53, and offer sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it, even in the day that it was dedicated with songs and other citherns and harps and cymbals. Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the God of heaven, who had given them good success. So they even realized it. They was like, Dad, yo, check that out. Ain't that crazy? Dad, to the day. Yo, exactly on the same day that they defiled it, we came and made it clean again. Yo, man, that's crazy. Most High is great, man. And now that's the Memorial Day, right? That's the day that we honor this event.
Reminiscent of Esther too. They cast a lot against us.
Mm-hmm.
It became a day of deliverance too.
Okay, exactly. Beautiful. Verse 56. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days and offered burnt offerings with gladness and sacrifice of deliverance and praise, right? So why did we keep it 8 days? Kahan read it last week. Go to 2 Maccabees 10 and 5. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I read this portion last week of why we keep it for 8 days, not 7 days like the Passover, right? So 2 Maccabees chapter 10 and verse 5 says, 2 Maccabees 10 and 5. Now upon the same day that the strangers profaned the temple, on the very same day it was cleansed again, even the 5 and 20th day of the same month, which is Caslu. And they kept 8 days with gladness, as in the feast of the tabernacles, remembering that not long before that they had held the feast of the tabernacle, when as they were wandering in the mountains and dens like beasts. So we had just come out of the tabernacles back in the fall season or the autumn season, right? That's that season for a holiday. So that was the last one. So we said, yo, we're going to keep it just like we kept that one. 8 days with gladness. We're going to get bros and branches and things. We're going to try it, and we're going to keep that feast day, right? So that's why we're keeping it 8 days like the previous one. So going back now to 1 Maccabees 4:57. It says, they decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold and with shields, and the gates and the chambers they renewed and hanged doors upon them, right? So when we was reading in the book of Kings, when Solomon was building the temple, and how they had certain images and things all on the walls and on the doors that open up the temple, that's what they're doing now. They're putting crowns of gold and things all on the doors, right? Getting the image. You got people who do carving work, and they putting that stuff all on there because the previous one was defiled. Verse 58. Thus were there very great gladness among the people, that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the month Caslu, with mirth and gladness. So this is a festival. It's a festive time, a time of happiness of the deliverance that was done by the family of the Maccabees, or the family of Matthias and his sons. So we're going to keep this here in honor of Judas and his brethren and all the things that was going on during that time. So every year we keep this. Can you get the one out of New Testament with Yahushua, Baruch Shah? So this is now an annual thing that we keep. Verse 60. And that time also they builded up the Mount Zion and high walls and strong towers round about, lest the Gentiles should come and tread it down as they done before. And they set there a garrison to keep it, and fortified Bethsura to preserve it, that the people might have a defense against Idumea. Like we mentioned earlier, Idumea is just Esau, right? In the book of Maccabees, that's the name that they use for Esau, right? When you read other places, they'll say Edom, they'll say Mount Seir. But here in the Apocrypha, they're going to be using Idumea the most. Jump down to chapter 5, verse 3. Watch this. Then Judas fought against the children of Esau in Idumea at Ecbatane, right? Or Arabatane. So Judas is now fighting against Esau in Idumea. Now, Idumea, when you read the history, is synonymous with Esau, right? Go to Ezekiel chapter 35. Somebody get Ezekiel 35 and 15. Ezekiel 35 and 15.
Ezekiel 35:15. As thou did rejoice at the inheritance of the house of Israel, because it was desolate, so will I do unto thee. Thou shalt be desolate, O Mount Seir, and all Idumea, even all of it. And they shall know that I am the Lord.
So now the Lord is speaking about Mount Seir and what they did when they possessed the house of Israel and how they rejoiced. The same way y'all rejoicing, oh, recompense is coming, right? But again, now it's saying, oh, Mount Seir and all Idumea. We just read in the Apocrypha of Maccabees that the Lord is referencing Idumea, talking about the same people, right? Esau. Go to Genesis chapter 36, verse 8. Right? The Lord is leaving breadcrumbs for the precepts so that you can now understand who is who. So this Greek thing that's happening to Maccabees is world history. It's ancient history. It's already known that the Greeks rode up with Alexander and the Seleucid dynasty and all these things. But now they've been referred to as the Idumeans. Genesis chapter 36, verse 8.
Genesis chapter 36 and verse 8. Thus dwell Esau in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom.
Right. So Esau is the one that dwell in Mount Seir. So when you hear Mount Seir, right, and all Idumea is talking about who? Esau. Who is Esau? Edom. That's the nation, right? That's the place that was given to them as their inheritance. One more, Joshua chapter 24 and verse 4. Joshua 24 and 4. So the reason why we go through these breadcrumbs that the Lord has left in the scriptures is because we need to identify through scriptures, through precept, who is who, right? Because there's other chapters in the Bible that also speaks about the destruction of the prophets related to Idumea that we're reading about. Who Idumea here is in the Maccabees is the Greeks. So Joshua 24 and 4.
And I gave unto Isaac Jacob and Esau. And I gave unto Esau Mount Seir to possess it. But Jacob and his children went down into Egypt.
Right. So the Lord says, I gave Esau Mount Seir. That's his possession. So anytime you hear about Mount Seir, that's talking about Esau. So now when you see them aligned together and all wherever they dwell, because you have Mount Seir, but Esau stretched his tentacles other places. So Esau is now where the Japhetic people live. He's not there in Mount Seir. He's up there up in Europe. That was one Japheth's land. So all of Italy, Germany, Japheth had all of that. So now all Idumea. So you may say, okay, that's just this people right here. No, it's all of them. Down the Alps and the Swiss, and they're all at wherever they are. This is the judgment that the Most High is bringing against Idumea, Mount Seir, Esau, Edom. All right. So one more, we get the one in the New Testament. Nabi, if you can read that.
St. John chapter 10, verse 22. And it was at Jerusalem the feast of dedication, and it was winter. And Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's court.
Right. So now you get the reference where it says that the feast of the dedication is mentioned in the Gospels. Where is the history found about this event that they're now mentioning? The feast of the dedication is not in the Old Testament where the ordinance was to keep this. It's found in the Maccabees. That's why we read the storyline. So sometimes people may say, well, my Bible don't have that book. I don't even know why they read out of that book, right? Well, they're not understanding that the original 1611 version Bible had this in there. It wasn't just 66, it was the 80 books. And it gives you that history when you read this. Without it, how do you know what the feast is talking about? Where did that come from that is mentioned there in the book of Luke in the Gospels? It comes from out of the Maccabees. All right. All right. So, all right. So with that, that should end or conclude the last day for the Feast of Dedication or Hanukkah. Most High's will, everyone was able to get the precepts. Any questions on anything, please write them down. Bring it to the Tuesday or Friday night class. Friday night class is coming up in a couple of days. So if you have further questions, make sure you write them down and bring it to the classes. For those who are new or who want to partake in the classes, here is the information. This is the teleconference line. Here, scrolling on the bottom, you can dial in. There's the PIN code. Starts at 7 p.m. Goes roughly approximately 10 o'clock. Sometimes goes beyond that, right? If you want to pick a part of the same class on Zoom, there is the link here as well, profitabletalks.com. Again, that's www.profitabletalks.com, where you can also log in and participate in the class. All right. So for all any donations that anyone wants to make to HYK or Hayash Kanas, there's the information on the marquee scrolling on the bottom. Just put your or make your payments if you're doing check or money order. Make sure it's made out to Hayash Kanas with the address 3826B Germantown Avenue, Philadelphia, PA. 19140 for the zip code. And those who also want to do it either based from PayPal, paypal.me/HYK12, or for Cash App, $ Kanas, the H and the K is capital. Again, everything is scrolling on the bottom of the marquee. For those who are new and wants to provide offering size of donation, you can do it by that means. All right. So again, I was a little bit late. Tried to get through a little bit expeditious but judiciously to get through all the precepts and understanding. So again, give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High Yahweh Shah for this knowledge, for this wisdom, for this understanding, for this opportunity to be present here in these last days, to partake of these prophecies and to put our brick in, do the works that's required of us in these last days to get us closer and closer to our salvation. So I want to say Tawada to all the brothers and sisters who was able to log in. Again, OG Makeup, Lob Tawab, and Sister Emma, Sister Warrior, Sugar Mama's Restaurant. Not sure who person it is. Get it? You got your online name, but the water for dialing in, logging on. Taza Ayagabar, Shalom, Elder Zaquan, Shalom. Again, everyone else that's not put anything in the chat, Shalom again. Most High's will enjoy the last day, and then afterwards we'll be back to our normal Sabbath. Again, next Sabbath, not like last week we were able to cook. It's going to be a normal scheduled thing that we're going to be doing. So again, Lord's will on the Friday night class, and then also for the Sabbath service upcoming. So with that, I'll say Ashar Kanaka, happy feast of dedication, and stay tuned for the closing prayers. All right. For the restaurant? Oh, okay. What you say name was? Okay, Shalom, Sister LaRonda Robinson. Shalom, shalom. All right. Barakatha Yahweh, Bashim Habashai, Ashirana Delanawa, Par Yahagaban, Bawada Amun, La Yahweh Bashim Habashai, As Yasha Allah. English translation. Blessed be Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. It's so big. For Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai with Israel. For those who are curious, that service is found in Ecclesiasticus Apocrypha, chapter 50, where Aaron and the priest take the cup and pour out the fruit of the vine. That's where that comes from. All right. I might well put you on, stand and face Jerusalem for the closing prayers. Yahweh, Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Shai, Shemai, Yom Nawa, Aitha, Yom Yun, Aitha, Salat, Ma'ika Allah, Waha Hayim, Tazudakim, La, Shemal Ayah, Barak, Rapah, Magun, Wahakaziyat, Banya, Washa Allah, Washalat, Lanawa, Rabiam, Kakama, Rabiam, Ya'ai, Rabiam, Bayana, Rabiam, Sabalonwa, Rabiam, Amawan, Rabiam, Aqua, Rabiam, Ahabiam, Rabiam, Hagana, Rakhanaya, Wasalat, Ko, Kata Yamnawa, Lahaakim, Wa'akua, Wayasha Allah, Thum Yad, Ba'awalum, Ba'asham, Yahawashai, Rawada, Amun. English translation. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, please listen to us now, right now. Send Michael and the rest of the powers of angels to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong the children of Israel. And send to us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, much love, much spiritual protection, and forgive all our sins. For the brothers and sisters in Israel, always and forever. In the name of Yahweh, I thank you. So be it. Prayer for the food first. Yahweh, Kadawal, Basham, Adawanya, Yahweh Shai, Babakushai, Barak, Ma'akal, Yanawa, Satayawa, Yanawa, Yayan, Yanawa, Lakam, Yanawa, Shakara, Yanawa, Zakad, Kanaka, Basham, Yahweh Shai, Wada, Amen. All right, 4 corners prayer. Yahweh, Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Barak Nawa, Yasha Allah, Babathia Saparim, Shema, Yasha Allah, Yahweh, Allah, Yahweh. Okay, English translation. Yahweh, in the name of God, bless us in Israel and the house of the different schools. And Deuteronomy 64, hear, O Israel, our as one power. And with that, again, we say happy feast of dedication. Most High's will, everyone has a remaining evening and the rest of the day. And the remaining week, we'll talk to each other in Friday night class. Shalom.
Shalom.